Okay. Jacob, I'm chilling, buddy. How are you? What's new? How's life? Shawnee, what's up, buddy? How's everybody's day today? My gamer name is Everything is Chogura. I'm good. Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, I've played RuneScape since I was in like grade 3. I'm so okay. Honestly, I've been playing this for a long time. Your first 99 was wood cutting? Oh my god. The legend. My first ever 99 was fishing. Fishing for hours. Got that, what? 14 mil XP, baby. 13 mil XP. You know how it goes. No XP waste. I got a message. Oh shit! I didn't even know. Yeah. I didn't realize she messaged me. Whoops. I was jumped in my own friends plan the attack. I've been used for my money. I've been tried and replaced. I've been booed off the stage, been described a disgrace. I've been told many times I'm defined by mistakes. I've had people say they love me, then they lied to my face. I've been scammed by my friends, find it hard to believe. I've been kicked when I'm down. I've been scarred by defeat. I've been loyal as I can. I've had partners that cheat. I've been ditched, I've been dumped, been discarded and beat. I've had people on my team drag my name through the dirt. All these words can't begin to explain all the hurt. I just watched every bridge as they started to burn. So now you know why my trust is harder to earn. I don't trust people, and I don't trust pigs. No, I don't trust nothing, I don't know what trust is. And I don't trust friends, I don't trust nothing else. How am I supposed to trust you when I don't trust myself? Yo, I don't trust people, and I don't trust pigs. No, I don't trust bitches, I don't know what trust is. And I don't trust friends, I don't trust nothing else. How am I supposed to trust you when I interesting, I never knew there were shades over here. Yeah, I've been through it all, just the way that it go. I've seen so much betrayal that it's taken a toll. I've had people try to stop me from chasing my goal. All the fake friends and smiles, such a weight on my soul. I've been totally ignored when I needed the support. Now I bottle up my baggage cause I needed to record. I don't move with no emotions, I just leave them at the door. I've been played so many times, now I'm just even in the score. I've been shit talked, bad mouth, beat up and bashed. I've been slept on, kicked out and treated like trash. I've supported my peers cause they needed the cash. Same ones disappeared, check clears and they dashed. I've had people in my life take me for granted. I got a heart inside of my chest that's basically granted. I've been walking around carrying the weight of the planet. So if they ask me about trust, now they understand it.
Runite bolts. I'm getting kind of shafted here.
I don't trust nothing, I don't know what trust is. And I don't trust friends, I don't trust nothing else. How am I supposed to trust you when I don't trust myself? Yo, I don't trust people, and I don't trust pigs. No, I don't trust bitches, I don't know what trust is. And I don't trust friends, I don't trust nothing else. How am I supposed to trust you when I don't trust myself? Yeah.
I have to kill 50 of these?
When I'm with you, I give you my all.
Yikes.
I've been waiting for a miracle to get over you. I know it's been a while, but I still think of you. Remember all the things we said, all the promises. I wish that we could start again. Yeah, I know that we called it quits and that's it, but I got
That poor man just got rinsed by that fire.
Took this long to finally feel up to going out and running into you. Feeling myself, but something's just missing. Don't wanna believe it's you. Yeah, look, I'm thinking maybe we could try it again. I don't wanna spend another night lying in bed. Just
Tomorrow's Saturday? Oh, thank God. Mother's Day this weekend.
little young, little dumb for what lies ahead. You the one that I want in my life to death. I don't know how to say it, so I write instead, but I confess. I've been waiting for a miracle to get over you. I know it's been a while, but I still think of you. Remember all the things we said, all the promises. I think that we could start again. Ooh. Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe we could start again. What you say about that? Don't wanna be just friends, I don't play like that. Yeah, maybe we could dance and we could hold hands and maybe make amends with a late night chat. So what you doing? I'm thinking about how your head's in the clouds, but I can't deny. I like how it sounds. I wanna start again, but I don't know how. So
Yo, Face of Death, what's up? I've decided what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open up my own bar in my hometown. That's my goal for the next 2 years, chat. That is my goal within these next 2 years. That'd be dope. Yeah. Like, my plan is to have, like, not necessarily, like, the biggest menu, but we're gonna have, like, bomb food, and then, like, be open as late as humanly possible. You know what I mean? Because every place around me closes at, like, 11 o'clock. Plus, like, you know, when my name's kind of like, you know, hometown famous, I guess you could say. Where I live, pretty hometown famous. We definitely won't be hurting for customers, you know? Definitely won't be hurting for customers.
Lines at 11% battery.
I was born into a home, had a thing for stepping across them. If you catch me past most 12 a.m.s, you'll find me swerving on some lines.
Why is it so important? In the morning? So 12 hours? Your girlfriend's coming to see him? Ooh. What do you guys have planned? Just chilling and stuff. I see what's going on here. Make sure you use protection, buddy. That's all I gotta say. You know, no want no little kids running around. Trust me. That's like the 5th time. Homie's out here got it counting on the fingers, yo. He remembers each and every time. Homie's counting on them fingers, dog. That's so funny, Drift. I am. You're such a man. You're such a dude. I love it. You're such a dude. I love it, bro. Keep it up. Don't ever change. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever change. It's fucking awesome. Go break a mirror. That's the nicest insult I've ever heard. Zane joined 07 and Taxington was dropped from... No shit. Yo, Apex is just gonna be so different. Apex is just gonna be so different now. Like, the new character is just like, I don't know. I don't like her. Bad Bad for the game. Bad for the game. Bad for the game. Mark my words. The decline of Apex is upon us. Go sit on attack energy. Yep. And then 1 second. Now, wish you the best in your goals and journey. Yo, God bless you too, brother. Then if I count correctly on my fingers, it'll be the second time we've met each other. Hey, yo, that's what's up. Or insane in comp, she's gonna be so. It's like Sierra, you know what I mean? Sierra was so new to the game, they didn't know how to incorporate her into comp. Once she gets in there, she's meta, bro. I'm telling you, she's like the best character in the game. If not the best, she's second best. Like, her abilities are just... You need to be a 6-head to play that shit. You know what I mean? You got the plans laid out? I mean, I'm working now, saving the money. I'm working now, saving the money. I'm scouting out a location. I've already got, like... My brother's an extremely good, like, cook, you know what I mean? He's, like, one of the best cooks I've ever seen in my god. I plan on starting in the bar while I'm working. I'll fund it with that, and then I can just get loans and shit too, right? From the bank. If need be. But the thing is, I gotta find a place first, you know what I mean? There's literally a place right around from my house. I'm not even joking. It used to be a corner store, but if I were to, like, lease it out and then renovate it, it could easily be converted into, like, a very good establishment because it's got a huge parking lot in the front too. And it'd be right in my neighborhood where I grew up. 2. How much is that for? It'll be right where I grew up too. It will be fucking like right around the corner from where I live. But like, I know you can do it, right, bro? We just have to make sure the food's exquisite. And then just have like a limited menu. I was thinking like a selection of like burgers, but like really good like homemade burgers. You know what I mean? Not this like cheap ass crap. Why are they multi-combating me? Interesting. Multi-combat zone. Interesting. Did I not bring... Oh my goodness. I'm a tool. I always count my fingers, Jack. Like, who doesn't? Nah. Never mind. Am I going the right way? Yeah, jellies. Okay. So we dash that. We high alcohol that. We should be able to do another run of at least 10, so we'll be... I have to make sure I bring also... home time. Family. I think family is the most important.
Every stone, every dive, every shadow on the wall that's cast from buzz and neon signs. Yeah, they all felt the night. Some drink to forget, and some drink to remember what they had. Then they let it slip right through their fingertips. Your chest high and knuckles wide. Yeah, we all know what it feels like.
Alright, chiller, Douglas. I don't even know what the fuck I'm listening to. Dante, holy shit, that's a name I haven't seen in forever.
Perfect. What are you recording this on? This is gonna read great in print. What magazine are you from, babe?
Rolling Stone.
Jocelyn, what's Rolling Stone? I want to dip you in chocolate. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had sex with me?
What songs can we expect to hear tonight? Such as?
The really good ones. Oh, yeah, nice answer. Yeah.
Can we have
The good ones, the really good ones.
Erase me.
Streams not as good as they used to be, bro, honestly, in terms of like people coming in and shit and money being made, but like I still have fun doing them, so I do them all the time and shit just cause, right? But other than that, life's fucking good, man. Like, been working. Living life. Oh, my internet just sucks. Like I usually do, but like this game, there's no point in doing it, honestly, because like you need the full screen, right? Damn, rip. Brutal Blacks. So we gotta go this way. No, we gotta go over this way, Clint. Nah, I'm not even interested in zombies, bro. I keep it a stack. That guy's being nice. He's like just saying we could share them there, but it'd be way too slow. Yeah, I don't really fuck with zombies too much anymore, man. Not gonna lie. Yeah, the most important tool is your fingers. Your fingers. Are they really a tool or a body part, though? Yeah. The Bucks are playing tonight. Knicks, Pacers. Not the Bucks, the Pacers. What am I saying? Knicks are gonna sweep them. That's crazy. I'm calling it. That's wild. Oh shit. What the? Can we throw these at this guy? Not even worth it.
Never understood how she could mean so little to some men.
Mark and Donna Winger tried for 6 years to have a baby, only to receive the devastating news that they were not able to have children. They were beyond heartbroken. especially Donna, who had dreamed her whole life of having children and being a mother. But that wasn't how their story would be written. The Ludden couple was about to receive the best gift they could imagine.
It's a creepy picture.
Comes our special delivery. Oh, look. Oh,
As they began this new chapter of their lives, Mark and Donna showed their new baby girl all the love that they had to give. Donna's dream had finally come true. She was, by all accounts, the happiest woman alive.
Mommy's feeling very comfortable these days with Bailey, and I think we've sort of bonded a little bit.
911 emergency, what's emergency? Help me! My God, my wife's breathing. Okay, you need an ambulance? I need everything! I need everything!
Welcome back to Crime A to Z, where we detail cases and criminals from their very beginning until well after other reporting ends. Today, we'll be talking about the both heartbreaking and evil case of Mark and Donna Winger. It's another one of those cases that you walk away from wondering which people are the ones you should really be terrified of. Join us to see how the promise of a high-powered nuclear physicist, an ill-fated shuttle ride, and dreams as big as the sky spiral into a heartbreaking trail of misery, devastation, and a little justice. And before we get started, as usual, if you like how we present this case, we always truly appreciate you hitting like, subscribe, and share. Let's go. Donna Ellen Brown was born in Hollywood, Florida on November 10, 1963, to parents Sarah Jane Brown and Robert Cash Brown. The couple had 3 children, Donna, the oldest, along with 2 younger daughters, Jenny and Michelle. Donna was extremely close to both her parents and her sisters. With Donna being the oldest, she had a motherly instinct and a strong desire to have children of her own someday. The Browns were a tight-knit Jewish family. They lived a comfortable life with Robert working as an insurance agent and Sarah Jane being a partner at Cornish Distributors, a newspaper distributorship in Middletown, New York. When Donna was 17, her parents divorced. And her mother, Sarah Jane, later married Ira Drescher. Donna was magnetic. She was extremely kind, outgoing, and made anyone she was around feel instantly comfortable. She was happy, and she loved making everyone around her happy as well. She would light up a room.
Yo, Squirt, what's up, buddy?
When Donna was 24, she was working as an operating room technician. Back then,
I'm
blind
doing
dates were
good,
still
my
a
man.
thing.
Life's good.
And Donna's co-worker, Greg Winger, was talking Donna up about his brother, Mark, who had just returned from serving
Geiger, what's
Korea
up?
as a lieutenant.
You finally
Greg
getting
offered
over
to set them up on
your
a blind
sickness,
date,
your illness?
And Donna agreed.
Attaboy.
Mark Allen Winger was born on November 26, 1962 in Elyria,
Is the audio
Ohio.
too loud, or is
His
it
parents,
good?
Jared and Sally Winger, were a technical manager for Eveready Products and a real estate agent, respectively. The Winger family was also Jewish and had 3 children.
It's
Mark was the
good.
youngest,
Ah.
along with his older brother and sister. Mark was
Just had to make
ambitious
sure.
and bright. He earned a bachelor's degree in physics from Virginia Military Institute and aspired to become a nuclear engineer. He was smart, attractive, and by the time he met Donna, quite successful, working as a physicist for a laboratory.
Squirt's an
manufacturing company.
OG.
Very impressive. And Donna thought
If
so
I actually
too.
had a
Hit
PlayStation
it off
controller that
instantly
worked
on their
properly,
blind
you
date.
know, I'd play
While
zombies
Donna was
tonight,
vibrant
chat.
and outgoing,
You know?
Mark
I've been
was
dying
quiet
to
and
play
reserved,
some 5.
and he was funny. He made Donna laugh.
If I
They
actually had a
began
working
dating, and
controller,
Donna's
I would
family
rip
liked him
that shit.
instantly. He was a perfect match for her. They seemed to always be touching, either holding hands or sitting. together.
Absolutely
Donna
game,
was always bursting
as
with
they
energy,
say.
and Mark was like a balance with his calm,
That's what my
quiet demeanor.
boy's saying.
They were in love and things were progressing so well that in June of 1988, 6 months after they began dating, Mark proposed to Donna. She happily accepted. The families were overjoyed. Donna's sister, Jenny, laughed at how when someone marries one sister, he's married to all 3, because that's how involved they all were in each other's lives. They announced their engagement.
If
in the
someone
New
get
York
this man a
Times the following
controller,
month.
yeah, I'm
They
sure
got
he's fucking
married
not
the
buying
following
one.
year on March 4th,
Tell you that
1989.
much.
Once they married, Mark got a job offer in Springfield, Illinois.
Get used to keyboard and mouse.
Relocated
It's
there,
not the
and
same.
Donna got a job assisting a plastic surgeon at Memorial Medical Center.
Just not the
was
same.
perfect place to raise
My
children,
desk isn't like.
especially in the neighborhood
If I had
that
the
the Wingers
proper
moved
desk
to.
for it, I would.
They
My
were
desk is
well
too
known and
high, so I'm
well-respected
playing
in
with my
both their
hands like
neighborhood
up.
and in their community. By everyone's accounts, the Wingers were the perfect couple.
It would be better,
They
but
had
my
great
hands are up,
jobs, a
and it
nice
just hurts
home,
after
and
a
they were
while.
clearly in love. They had everything.
If it was
they could
like straight in
possibly
front of
want,
me.
except a child. The couple set out to grow their small family by
And I'm
having a
too
baby.
lazy to get
They
like
tried
some
for
wood
6 years, but
and some
ultimately
screws
received
and
the
just make my
devastating
own little
news
fucking
that Donna was
stationary thing
unable
that I could
to
put the
become
keyboard
pregnant.
on.
She
You know?
had longed to become a mother for nearly her entire life.
My
It
own
was a heartbreaking
stationary
blow.
platform.
Not just for her, but for Mark as well. He had also dreamed of having a large family. The news brought some tension into the home. But fortunately, their dream of not being able to have children would be short-lived. One day while Donna was at work, one of the doctors entered the room and shared that he had a teenage mother who was going to give her baby up for adoption. He asked if anyone in the room knew of anyone who wanted to adopt a baby. The Wingers were a perfect match, and Donna knew that it was meant to be. On June 1st,
That's God speaking
1995,
right there.
Mark and Donna adopted a beautiful baby girl into their family. They named her Bailey Elizabeth Winger.
How do you feel, Donna?
Yeah, who are you, Squirt?
And I just want her to know that if this so happens that the day she's coming home to us,
I need
is
your
the
government right now.
anniversary of our engagement of Mark and I. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Here comes our special delivery.
Special delivery. Like the little stork.
Oh,
The little stork from Jungle Book. Or not
was the
Jungle
light
Book,
of their
Dumbo.
lives. Donna said that she
Oh
knew the
shit, my
moment
phone's
the
about
baby
to
was
die.
placed into her
On
arms,
2%
that
battery.
she was hers.
Not good.
Their bond was instant and unmistakable. Her sister said it best when she reflected that becoming a mother was probably the best thing that had ever happened in Donna's life.
Mommy's feeling very comfortable these days with Bailey, and I think we've sort of bonded a little bit.
Oh, I think we
Yeah.
bonded a lot.
Family and friends were there to show their love and support for the baby. One friend in particular, Deanne Schultz, who Donna had become close with at work at the hospital, was invaluable. She helped Donna learn the ropes of being a new mom and supported her with whatever she needed.
This is just the sweetest little niece.
She was an instant aunt. She and her husband, John, would often spend time and go out with the Wingers. When Bailey was 3 months old, Donna took her on a trip to visit her family in Florida for a week while Mark was away on a business trip in Tennessee. Upon her return, her mother had ordered a shuttle to pick her up from the airport, not wanting Donna to have to worry about
Excuse
caring
me.
for anything other than Bailey during her travels. Once she arrived at the airport,
Technically,
she met
I'm
up with the
government.
shuttle,
That's funny.
and they set out on the 1.5-hour journey from the airport to the
Public
Wingers'
Works,
home.
probably.
Although it was a shuttle van, Donna and the baby were the only passengers that day, which
I don't
suited
know.
her just fine to start. But not for long. Instead of the ride being one that helped Donna relax and enjoy a leisurely trip home, it did the opposite. The driver began speaking irrationally, sharing with Donna that he often spoke to a godlike spirit named Dom, and that he experienced visions of killings and other disturbing comments. He also began flirting with her, mentioning how he liked older women. He drove erratically and
That's
exceeded
creepy
the
as
speed
hell.
limit. Donna was terrified. She wasn't certain how the trip was going to end and just wanted to make it home. She did. Shaken, she shared her experience with Deanne, and then with Mark via telephone since he was still away on business. He was very concerned. He made Donna write down exactly what happened, including every detail of what the driver said. In the days following the encounter, they received strange calls at their home where the caller would breathe and hang up. Mark was convinced it was the same driver and filed a complaint with the shuttle van company, BART Transportation, claiming that their driver was harassing them. The company suspended the driver, whose name was Roger.
Stay quiet, boy. I like it that way.
6 days after the bizarre and frightening shuttle encounter, Mark was working out on the treadmill in the basement when he said he heard a loud bump or crash. Worried that Donna had either fallen or dropped the baby, he rushed upstairs to the master bedroom and found Bailey laying on the bed. Then, hearing screams from elsewhere, he grabbed his gun and rushed out to the hallway to find his 31-year-old wife on the floor with a man striking her in the head repeatedly with a hammer.
What the fuck?
Mark aimed the gun at the intruder and shot him.
911 emergency. Help me! My God, my wife's breathing. Okay, you need an ambulance? I need everything. I need everything.
Springfield Police.
Yes, help me.
What's the problem?
I just shot this man in my house.
He's inside your house right now?
He beat my wife.
Is he in there right now?
Yes,
Does he have a gun?
Her brains are everywhere.
Where's the man at?
He's laying on the floor.
Is he dead?
I don't know. He's making weird sounds.
You hear him in the background going, oh.
Slow down. I can't understand you. Slow down. Is the man still in your house?
Yes, he's laying there on the floor with a bullet in his head.
Did you shoot him?
Yes, I shot him. He was killing my wife. Please, my baby's crying. My baby's crying. I gotta go. I'll call you right back.
The 911 operator called Mark back.
What the?
Winger?
Yes, yes.
This is the police department. We've got officers en route. I need to know what's going on there.
My wife is dying on the floor.
Okay, is she still alive?
I think so.
Okay, we've got ambulance en route and we've got police officers en route. Where?
That's wild.
I left it on the table. It's on the table. It's on the table. Please,
Okay.
God, please come here.
We've got people on the way.
Okay.
Who is this man?
I don't know who he is.
He's still inside the house?
Yes, he's laying on the floor. Okay, I gotta hold my wife. I gotta get to my wife.
Okay, are you Mark Winger?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, and your wife is Donna?
Yes, she is.
When did the man come here?
I know, a few minutes ago. Wait, I gotta get to my wife. Please, just let me get to my wife. I won't hang up. Okay?
Okay, we've got officers en route.
Okay, my door's open.
Okay.
Okay.
Officers arrived.
Oh,
at
he's
the
got
scene
like
to
one
find both
attached to
Donna
the wall.
And the intruder, lifeless on the floor, but still alive. Donna was face down on the floor in the dining room, and several feet away, lying on his back, was the killer. The first officer on the scene, Officer Dave Behringer, aware that the victims would be whisked off for emergency treatment soon, promptly ran out to his car to retrieve his Polaroid camera and snap a few pictures of the crime scene and the victims. Shortly after that, the victims were indeed rushed off to hospitals for treatment. Police began questioning Mark. He described what happened and told officers that the hammer the intruder used in the attack was his, that Donna had left it out as a reminder to hang a hat rack. He explained how he was working out on the treadmill in the basement, heard commotion, then ran and found the baby on the bed in the master bedroom. He said Donna would never leave the baby like that. Then he heard Donna screaming. So he grabbed his gun, found the man beating Donna, and shot him. He said the man fell backward, landing on his back, but then began to sit up, facing him. So Mark shot him again. While he was recounting the events, Detective Charlie Cox entered the room. Mark asked Detective Cox who the strange attacker was, but the detective, who had already retrieved the intruder's wallet and knew exactly who he was, avoided his question. He asked Mark to focus on telling them what happened. After Mark asked Cox who it was enough times without receiving an answer, he finally asked Cox if the intruder's name was Roger. Cox felt that he finally had to answer, and told him yes, that his name was Roger Harrington. Mark responded, "Oh my God, this is the guy that's been harassing us all week." He explained that Roger was a shuttle driver that engaged in a frightening conversation with Donna less than a week before that. He told them he had called Roger that very morning, telling him to stop harassing his wife, and that he had filed a police report against him. What Detective Cox was not sharing with Mark was that he was already very familiar with Roger Harrington. Cox happened to own a trailer park in town, and Roger and his wife had rented a trailer from him. There, Harrington had been involved in domestic disputes where Cox himself had to get involved. So he considered 27-year-old Roger to be quick to anger, which fit with what he was seeing. While being questioned, Mark asked detectives if he could have a Diet Coke. So Detective Doug Williamson, the other lead detective on the case along with Cox, went to the refrigerator to get him the drink. That's when he noticed a note on the refrigerator. There was the multi-page note that Donna had written detailing her account with the shuttle driver. It fit perfectly with what Mark had described. Outside the home, Harrington's car was parked on the wrong side of the street, facing oncoming traffic. In it, they found a note that had Mark's name and address, along with a time, 4:30. Also in his car, they found a knife and a tire iron with black electrical tape around the handle. Inside the house, they found a yellow coffee mug and cigarettes on the kitchen table, both belonging to Harrington. They also found a hammer covered in blood. The detectives consoled Mark, assuring him that he had done everything he could to try to save his wife, but that both Donna and Harrington had not survived their injuries. Mark was inconsolable and called his rabbi to come help comfort him through the ordeal.
Called his rabbi.
Mark was also worried that he'd be arrested for shooting the attacker, but there was no cause for concern. He and his wife were considered the victims of this heinous attack. Far from a criminal, Mark was hailed a hero for shooting his wife's attacker. Officially, Donna's death was listed as a murder by Harrington, and Harrington's death was listed as justified homicide due to self-defense. The case was closed within 48 hours. After the
Damn,
murder,
that's
all hands
crazy
were on deck from
fast.
Donna's family to help
Bro,
ease the pain and
that's
transition
crazy
for Mark
fast to
and
be
baby
closing
Bailey.
that case, bro.
Donna's mother and sister,
What
while
the
still
fuck?
grieving for their own tremendous loss, took turns traveling to Springfield to help Mark care for the baby. During the visits, they noticed that Mark was behaving strangely, not at all as they expected. He was drinking excessively and would watch movies that had incredibly violent face-to-face shooting scenes. Scenes you would think he would avoid after having just encountered one himself. But they didn't want to judge Mark and allowed him to grieve in whatever way helped him. As far as they were concerned, Mark loved Donna unconditionally and fully, so they loved him and supported him. He was every bit as much of the family as Donna was. After about 4 months of Donna's mother and sister traveling to help Mark, they got to the point where they couldn't continue traveling and recommended to Mark that he look into getting a nanny. So he did. Her name was Rebecca Simic. 23-year-old Rebecca was sweet, caring, and pretty. And everyone loved her. Donna's mother and sister, who didn't expect to like the person who would care for Bailey, given their high standards for her care, couldn't help but to love her. Rebecca loved and cared for Bailey with her whole heart, and they could see that. She was open and embraced the whole family, helping them stay a part of Bailey's life. Rebecca felt welcomed and supported by everyone involved, with one exception. Deanne, Donna's best friend, was still present, and still offered her help with Bailey at every turn. But at some point, her support became pushy. She insisted on being a part of Bailey's life, nearly to the point of trying to replace Donna, according to Rebecca. Rebecca mentioned her concerns about Deanne to Mark, but he dismissed it as Deanne still being hurt from the loss of her best friend. Mark loved Rebecca too. A lot. So much, in fact, that after less than a year of her nannying and several late-night talks and wine, Mark announced to Donna's family that Rebecca was pregnant. Mark was thrilled. Rebecca was pleased as well, but also surprised. Mark had told her that he wasn't capable of having children, so she had not prepared for that. The couple began planning their lives together. Mark started attending church with Rebecca and told her they could raise their children as Christians, and that he would switch his faith to Christianity. When their family rabbi, Michael Datz, found out, he was shocked. He asked Mark how he could give up his entire life of Judaism. Mark replied, "Judaism is just too difficult and unforgiving." The rabbi responded, "Mark, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you need forgiveness for?" The couple's relationship flourished, with Mark being the epitome of the perfect partner and ultimately, husband.
There's our view on our balcony, and Prince Charming is cooking breakfast. So it's very easy to understand why I'm going to marry this man.
Mrs. Wenger, on film for the first time.
The couple married in Hawaii in October of 1996. Donna's family was crushed that their beloved Donna could so easily be replaced in Mark's life just 14 months after she was murdered. By all accounts, Mark had moved on with his life. He and Rebecca moved into a 4-acre home in the suburbs of Springfield, where over the next 3 years they would have
Back in the day when you could still get divorced and have fucking money to afford a new place.
As their family grew, they began to pull away from Donna's family, which
I
hurt
just
them
messed up
immensely.
so bad, dude.
When Sarah Jane would get to see her granddaughter, she would often just begin
That's
to
hilarious.
cry, reminded that her beloved daughter was not there to watch her baby grow. That would irritate Mark. He didn't want her crying around Bailey. At one point, Sarah Jane tried to give Bailey a necklace of Donna's, but Mark asked her to take it off because it made him feel bad. From that point on, relations with Donna's family only got worse. They did not get along. Then Sarah Jane received a letter from Mark stating that Bailey would no longer be calling her grandma. Heartbroken, she wrote a letter back pleading with him to reconsider, but he insisted that he was not going to allow Bailey to call her grandma. After realizing that Mark was no longer the person they knew, they came to the painful realization that they were being shut out of Bailey's life and had to accept it. But it didn't stop the grandparents from sending Bailey a card every year on her birthday. Bailey would ask Rebecca who Sarah Jane and Ira were. Rebecca would explain that they were Donna's parents and that they wanted to let her know that they loved and remembered her. Meanwhile, Mark appeared to have fully recovered from the murder, both emotionally and financially. Less than 24 hours after Donna was murdered, Mark submitted a claim against her life insurance policy.
Bro, less than
and collected
24 hours? How is that man not
$150,000.
immediately, like, just suspected? That's crazy. Unpause the video. We was all watching it. We gonna watch it together. I gotta think what I need. I gotta think, brother. Hey, brother.
He also applied for assistance from the Crime Victims Compensation Act and received the maximum that was allowed by the state at that time of $25,000. But that wasn't enough. In an attempt to make Bart pay for their negligence in hiring a homicidal driver, exactly 4 months after Donna's murder, Mark filed a multi-million-dollar wrongful death civil lawsuit against Bart Transportation and the Harrington estate. He claimed that Bart should have known that Harrington was dangerous and unfit for the job. That move would eventually prove to be one too many. Just 1 month after Winger filed the lawsuit against Bart, the detectives received a surprise visit from him. It struck them as odd, since they normally never hear back from victims after a case is closed, particularly ones who are hailed as heroes. Mark claimed he wanted to see if he could get his gun back from evidence. They had no problems with returning the gun to Mark, but in the process, he started probing. He asked them how the case was going, if it was still open, if they were doing any further interviews, etc. Detective Cox found the inquiry suspicious. His suspicions were heightened even further when Mark visited the station a second time, bragging about getting remarried. Doug Williamson, the other lead detective on the case, had always had his suspicions about the murder but was overruled by higher-ups who insisted the case be closed. Cox was now beginning to agree with his partner. They both wanted the case to be reopened, but the higher-ups still wouldn't allow it based solely on their gut feelings. They needed solid evidence. And they didn't have any. Or so they thought.
Dun, dun.
Mark's life had been completely transformed. He had a new wife, beautiful children, a sizable insurance payout.
Man has it all.
At his job in the Department of Nuclear Safety. He had distanced himself from his rabbi, his religion, and anyone who had anything to do with Donna. Things were going exactly the way he wanted them to go, until they were not. Facing a potential company-threatening settlement, Bart fought back. The company's attorneys launched their own investigation, which spanned years. Toward the end, they would be exchanging evidence with police and sharing the costs of forensic experts. Police were more than willing to do so because by that time, some 3+ years after the murders, someone was making their rounds and dropping bombshells along the way. It was Deanne Schultz, now named Deanne Anderson. Deanne had faced several devastating life challenges following Donna's murders, and it was all coming to a head. In October of 1998, just over 3 years after the murders, Rebecca took Mark to the ER when he wasn't feeling well. They ran into Deanne in the waiting room, and Deanne glared at Rebecca. After the encounter, Mark told Rebecca that they would probably hear from her again. Rebecca did not hear from her, but the police did. After seeing the couple at the ER, Deanne decided that she couldn't keep quiet any longer. Deanne had battled severe depression and other mental health issues brought on by her guilt about knowing the truth about Donna's murders. She had undergone every treatment known, to the point of utilizing electric shock therapy to treat it, being institutionalized, and much more deadly encounters. So after the chance meeting in the ER and upon her doctor's insistence, Deanne decided to come forward and confess to police all that she knew about Donna's murder. She visited police, and in exchange for immunity, she told them everything she knew. She shared that she had been having an affair with Mark, beginning just 1 month before Donna was murdered and continuing for 6 months afterward. Deanne claimed they were in love, and Mark had even gotten them wedding rings with plans for them to marry. They talked about divorcing their spouses, but Mark's response was that it would just be easier if Donna was dead. Mark told Deanne that all she would have to do is find the body while he was out of town. She told Mark, "I don't want to have anything to do with that. I would cease to be a vital person." Mark repeatedly mentioned Donna dying, so Deanne finally told him, "I am going to divorce John. You do what you have to do." She
At
also
least she's
shared that she
sensible.
called Mark at some point after she saw him at the ER to see if he would tell her he killed Donna and Harrington. While on the call, she asked him how he could live with himself. He responded that he had found Jesus Christ and that he was forgiven. Mark also told her that if she told anyone about the murders, their gooses would be cooked. And when referring to Harrington, he said, "Dead men don't talk." And that he didn't want Deanne to know the truth because ignorance is bliss. She said Mark threatened her not to tell anyone about the things he'd said, and she spent the last few years struggling with her guilt. Cox and Williamson were suspicious. They had interviewed Deanne on the day of the murders, and she had not mentioned any of this. So they checked the hotel records where she claimed they stayed, and they checked out. They also checked phone records and found that the pair had racked up 845 minutes of phone conversations.
Ooh la la.
They began re-interviewing people, including a nanny that the Wingers tried out before Rebecca. She told police that Deanne's husband, John, had called the Wingers home once looking for Deanne. The nanny went outside and saw that Deanne's car was in the driveway and told John. She came back inside and knocked on Mark and Donna's bedroom door, and Deanne came out a short while later. The nanny told Deanne that her husband was on the phone and wanted to talk to her. They also spoke to another friend of Donna's to probe further about the couple's marriage. The friend insisted that Donna spoke openly about her marriage and everything seemed perfect to her. She did note that about 2 months before the murder, Donna felt that Deanne was beginning to become obsessive and suffocating. She said it felt like she was trying to move in on her and Mark's life. The friend also recalled how after Donna's death, Mark told her that he
peace out,
missed
Geiger.
a
Have a good one,
physical
buddy.
relationship and needed a woman's touch. The friend considered it a passive and became
I needed
uncomfortable.
a woman's touch.
Around the time
Oh,
Deanne was visiting
God.
police, Mark presented a demand of $1.5
That's the
million
nicest
to
way of
Bart
saying,
to settle their
I just
lawsuit
want to
out of
have
court.
sex,
The company was on the verge of making him
Oh.
an offer when they received a phone call from Deanne. Deanne called Bart attorney John Nolan. John asked who was calling, and she said she couldn't say, but that they should not settle with Winger. She told them she had just gone to the police, and the case was going to be reopened. Nolan was all ears, but she said she couldn't say anything further and hung up. The law firm had caller ID, so Nolan called her back and told her, "You just told us not to settle. Why?" She asked him how he got her number. Caller ID. He threatened to subpoena her, so she agreed to come in and ended up giving them a 60-page sworn statement documenting the affair and everything else she knew of. Mark withdrew the civil suit, but the horse had already left the barn and was halfway to the courthouse. With Deanne's statements resulting in the motive that was always missing, the case was reopened. The first order of business was to revisit findings from the original investigation, but when detectives went to retrieve the evidence, it was missing. It had been turned over to Winger's attorneys years ago to be used in his civil case against Bart. Handing over evidence to Winger's attorneys was the first in a long line of missteps that law enforcement acknowledged. They headed to the attorney's office to retrieve the evidence. As they were wrapping up, the attorney asked them if they wanted the 3 Polaroids he also had. Detective Cox didn't recall any Polaroids, but said sure. They turned out to be the 3 Polaroid photos that the first officer on the scene snapped before the paramedics arrived and removed the bodies. He had submitted them, but no one ever got around to actually looking at them. Those 3 elusive photos turned out to be the most impactful pieces of evidence in the case. They showed that the position of Harrington's body was facing in the same direction as Donna's. But when Mark explained how he shot Roger, he said Roger was kneeling down next to Donna's head as he was beating her. He said he shot him and that Roger fell backwards so that his feet stayed near Donna's head. The Polaroids show the exact opposite, and the blood spatter experts agreed. The pictures were irrefutable proof that what happened that night did not happen the way Mark said it did. As they explored the evidence, multiple questions surfaced. For starters, Roger's coffee mug and cigarettes on the kitchen table didn't make sense. Why would Roger bring coffee and cigarettes to a murder? Roger had two ideal murder weapons in his car: a knife and a tire iron already fashioned with a handle. If he had planned to murder Donna, why would he have banked on a murder weapon being inside the home instead of bringing in one of the highly effective weapons he had in his car? Also in Roger's car was that note, the one that had Mark's name and address, along with a time, 4:30. It seemed clear that the time was a meeting time. And why did it have Mark's name? Was killing Mark the original plan? Donna's body was found face down. If Mark had cradled her in his arms as he claimed, then why would he place her face down when he was done? Police also found it odd that Mark first went to the master bedroom. When you hear a noise, why would you go to your bedroom? Why not go to where the noise actually is? And virtually nothing that Mark described about the murder lined up with the forensic findings. From the blood spatter on Mark's shirt and not on Roger's, to the gun's spent shell casings that were not discharged where he claimed to have shot Roger, to the location, position, and direction he said he shot him. None were consistent with findings. And then there's the 911 call. When police arrived at the scene, Mark told them that he shot Harrington twice, a few seconds apart. But at the time he made the first 911 call, he clearly referenced a single bullet he had fired.
Is the man still in your house?
Yes, he's laying there on the floor with a bullet in his head.
Did you shoot him?
Yes, I shot him. He was killing my wife.
That was shortly before he bizarrely had to hang up with 911 while his wife lay dying because his baby was crying. You can clearly hear Roger moaning in the background of the call prior to Mark hanging up. You could not hear him moaning afterward. And by the time paramedics arrived, there were 2 bullets in Roger Harrington's head. It also didn't help that Mark's version of the events seemed to vary each time he told someone. At one point, even adding in that he also struck Roger in the chest with a hammer because he was, quote, moaning and groaning. Detectives were also finding that there were quite a few people who had their suspicions about Mark and his actions around the time of the murder.
Because he was moaning and
Donna's
groaning.
father, Cash Brown, said that his son-in-law didn't act like a grieving widower. When they were taking a walk after the funeral, he said that Mark never shed a tear, as he described what happened during the murder, even though he could see that his father-in-law was crying. And both Donna's friends and family wondered why the front door was unlocked that afternoon, knowing that Donna always kept her doors locked. And according to Donna's father, one of Donna's sisters and a friend even tested out Mark's account of the events that night. One of them ran on the treadmill in the basement, while the other one fell to the floor upstairs. The person on the treadmill could not hear anything over the sound of the treadmill. In December of 1999, as both Bart and police's investigations were well underway,
that's not conclusive
Springfield's
evidence,
local daily
so,
newspaper
you
ran
could
an
just
article
have better
based on the
hearing than
claims that
simple
Bart
as
made
that.
in the civil lawsuit against
That'd
them.
be easy to disprove.
Based on the findings of the blood spatter expert, Bart claimed that Winger was the orchestrator of the murder, not Harrington, and that Winger had killed both his wife and Harrington. The article did not alarm the police or Bart, who were already knee-deep into their investigations, but it most definitely alarmed Mark and Rebecca. Rebecca couldn't believe that law enforcement was wrongly targeting her husband. She stood by his side, believing they would ultimately look into everything and her husband would be cleared. Investigators were indeed busy working on the case, but not necessarily to clear her husband. With the evidence law enforcement was gathering, the events of that devastating day came into focus. A month before the murders, Deanne Schultz confided in Donna that she was having problems in her marriage and was considering getting back together with an ex-boyfriend and moving to Minnesota. Donna tried to help Deanne through her marital problems and talk her out of moving, but at some point thought that perhaps a man's perspective could help Deanne. So she asked Mark if he would talk with her. Mark agreed, and he arranged for the two of them to meet halfway between her home and his current business trip location. They did. The affair began that night at a hotel and continued from there. They would talk on the phone 2 to 3 times per day and romantically connect in hotels, in cars, and in their own homes whenever they could. Their respective spouses were completely in the dark about the affair, even as they all continued to go out together to dinners and gatherings. As far as Donna knew, she had the most loving, devoted, kindest husband a woman could ask for. She set off to visit her parents for a week while Mark was away on business. she returned to face the unpleasant shuttle ride home with Roger Harrington. Despite the ride being a troubling one for Donna, Roger was optimistic about his future. He was proud of his new job with Bart, and he loved the van that he drove. The terrifying shuttle ride fell right into Mark's lap. He leaped at the opportunity to turn Harrington into a scapegoat. As soon as he heard of the incident, he insisted that Donna fully document every detail. Then, 2 days after the shuttle ride, he asked his coworker what would happen to their baby if Donna died before the adoption process was complete. 3 days after the shuttle ride, referring to Roger Harrington, he told Deanne, "I need to get that guy in my house." That same day, he called Ray Duffy, the owner of Bart, to complain about the driver. He asked Duffy for Roger's last name and said he wanted to talk to the driver directly. Finding the request unusual, Duffy refused and said that he would talk to Roger. Roger was eager to work things out, so he gave Duffy permission to give his phone number to Winger. On the day of the murders, Mark called Deanne at work and asked her, "Will you love me no matter what?" She replied, "Yes." And he made another call on the day of the murder to Roger Harrington. Roger's roommate was there when he received the call, and it was very clear that Mark called Roger that morning to invite him to his house, not to warn him to stay away as Mark claimed. Roger was eager to work things out with Winger and get his job back. He told both his roommate and another witness about the meeting prior to heading
It's pretty
out
sad.
at about 3:30.
This innocent guy just gets set up like that. Like, no clue what the fuck's going
According
on.
to the crime
Just
scene
because that guy
analysts
wants to
and
kill
blood
his
spatter
wife.
experts, once Harrington arrived and was inside the home, Winger likely forced Harrington to his knees and shot him from the back of his head. Hearing the shots, Donna came rushing to the room, and Mark beat her to death with a hammer. He then called 911. But midway through the call, Roger began moaning in the background, trying to live. Mark concocted a flimsy excuse for hanging up so that he could finish Roger off without 911 hearing the final gunshot. A delay in between the two shots was consistent with both forensics as well as a neighbor's report that she heard the two shots about 5 minutes apart from each other. Police reclassified the killings as a staged domestic homicide. Roger Harrington was not a murderer, but a victim, who Winger lured to his home to kill him and frame him for his wife's murder. On August 23, 2001, Mark Winger was arrested at his job. He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and held on a $10 million bail. Mark asked a childhood friend to help him post bail, but the friend refused. With Mark Winger's arrest, the man who originally helped hail him a hero was now committed to proving him a heartless murderer and vindicating Roger Harrington. Roger's innocence was no surprise to the Harringtons. They never for a minute thought that the allegations against him were true, even when the case was closed. His mother insisted that despite his mental illness, he was not a violent person. And according to his sister, Barbara Howell, he was the kindest soul you'd ever encounter, someone who would do anything for you, noting that if she needed a gallon of milk in the middle of the night, he'd be eager to run and get it for her.
Yeah, you know what's pretty crazy? I believe that because that guy was so willing to go make up for his job. You know, all he wanted was his
family
job.
insisted his mental illness
He was willing to go
impacted
to
what
this
he
guy's
said,
fucking
but
house.
not his actions.
I guess pretty sad.
His sister recalled the domestic altercation Detective Cox referred to, noting that during Roger's rocky marriage, he came home one day to find his wife and her ex-husband throwing his belongings out of their home. Roger understandably became upset and got into an altercation with the ex-husband. His wife tried to get in the middle of it, which is when Detective Cox showed up to break it apart, explaining his perspective about breaking up the domestic dispute. Trisha Ray, whose mother owned another trailer Roger rented, tried to convince police that Roger was harmless, even gentle and kind. She said, "It was frustrating that no one would believe us. I know what the police were thinking. Here's this man with a good name and a good job living in a nice house. And look at us. They thought we were trailer trash, and Roger was crazy." Despite his run-ins with the law, court and hospital records showed that while Roger was depressed and delusional, he was determined to never pose a threat to anyone but himself. As Winger's trial began, police acknowledged that they made grave errors during the first investigation.
Yeah, you made grave
including
errors.
throwing out blood evidence, returning Winger's gun to him, and turning over crime scene photos, the hammer, and other evidence to Winger's attorney. But their second investigation was solid. The prosecution set out to prove that Winger
How could you be
meticulously
so
plotted
sure?
and carried out luring Roger Harrington to his home, shooting him, beating his wife to death, then framing Harrington for the murder. Rebecca was confident right up until the end that the 12 jurors would see through to the truth and find her husband not guilty so he could come home. They did not. After 3 weeks of testimony and 13 hours of deliberation, on May 29, 2002,
Only 13 hours?
6.5 years after Donna Winger and Roger Harrington were murdered, a jury found Mark Winger guilty of the 2 counts of first-degree murder. One of the jurors would later remark that, if you're going to go over to kill somebody, you don't bring a pack of cigarettes and something to drink, and just hope that the murder weapon's going to be there. But jurors overall said that the state's best evidence was the first evidence police ever collected, the 3 Polaroids. Mark Winger was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
RIP.
On the 6th anniversary of Roger's death, his family placed a small classified ad in the newspaper in memory of Roger. It read, "Although your death has interested many, it is your life we truly miss." Roger's father, Ralph Harrington, died in 2010. He lived to see that his son was vindicated, even honored, and saw his son's killer placed behind bars. To honor their daughter's memory, in 1988, Sarah Jane and Ira Drescher raised funds for a new hospital wing in Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital in Hollywood, Florida. They named it Donna's Playroom. The Dreschers also established a Donna's Fund at the Women in Distress Shelter in Broward County, Florida, to help victims leave abusive relationships. It provides them with funds for security deposits, babysitting, furniture, and more, to help them transition to new lives. Mark Winger was sent to serve out his sentence at a correctional center called TAMS, then later moved to Menard, then finally to Western Illinois Correctional Center, where he is currently serving. He filed multiple appeals of his conviction, one of which made it to the Illinois Supreme Court. He lost. In stark contrast to his slight figure when he entered prison, the 215-pound, now tatted Winger mounted a multi-year legal fight over where he could exercise. He'd argue that being required to stay in his concrete-walled cell all day was causing him anxiety, depression, and panic attacks, and that it constituted cruel and unusual punishment.
What's up, you little baka?
He complained that running in place and doing jumping jacks in his cell caused his knees to hit the wall or bunk. Sit-ups made his bed too sweaty, and the floor was too dirty for push-ups.
Suck it up, bro. You killed your wife.
Then in 2006,
what are you saying, Sussy?
His conviction, 48-year-old Winger was indicted for attempting to hire a fellow prisoner, Terry Hubble, to murder 2 people, Deanne Anderson, and the childhood friend who refused to post his bail, Jeffrey Gelman. The original plan was for the hitman to kidnap Gelman, who Winger resented for refusing to post his bail. They would demand a ransom by threatening to harm his family. That plan later changed to simply killing him. Deanne was to be kidnapped and forced to write and record lengthy statements that Winger had scripted, saying that Winger is innocent and that she lied and made everything up. The hitman would then kill her. He documented the entire plan in a 19-page handwritten document. He gave the document to Hubble, who turned it over to authorities and began working as an informant in exchange for being transferred to a more comfortable prison. Winger's 19-page document covered every detail, including ensuring that only Deanne's fingerprints would be on the letters and envelopes, and that her saliva had to be on the stamps. He tried to claim that he was just fantasizing, and that it was all a setup. But his recorded conversations included statements like, "Here's the thing. Look at all I did, in all my own handwriting. There's things that only I would be able to in this whole thing. The only one who stands to gain is me. It all points to me. I get busted right along with you. There's no way that I would not be implicated." For his trial, he wrote a statement to the court that read in part, "I am exceedingly sorry for my foolishness in sharing my fantasies with Terry Hubble. And I regret that my incarceration has so affected my judgment that I would write down my fantasies as a diversion and then be idiotic enough to trust those writings in the hands of Terry Hubble." This time, the jury took less than 3 hours, including lunch. Mark Winger was found guilty and sentenced to an additional 35 years on top of his life without parole sentence.
Later, bud.
He appealed that conviction as well, and lost again.
Man got rinsed.
Winger has filed at least one other case against the prison as recently as 2023, and based on his pattern, is bound to file more. After Mark's conviction, Mark and Donna's daughter, Bailey, continued being raised by Rebecca. Rebecca divorced Winger and had her and her children's names legally changed from Winger to her maiden name, Simic.
No
She
shit.
described it as a symbolic step to be seen for who she is and not who he was. The home she had bought with Winger was foreclosed, and Rebecca, who had been a stay-at-home mom for 7 years, filed for bankruptcy.
Damn.
She moved her and her children out of Springfield and moved in with her brother while she established a new career, credit, and a new life. She now opens up about having been the wife of an incarcerated murderer. And she and her kids
Of course, she's probably
collaborate with
making
Big
bank
Brothers,
off of
Big
it.
Sisters to support children growing up with incarcerated parents like hers did. She stated, "No one seems to think about the family when someone is incarcerated. I call them living victims. It's a humiliating, embarrassing role to play, although you have done nothing wrong." Rebecca and the children look back on their childhood videos with hindsight clarity, analyzing Mark's actions and seeing him for the evil person that he truly is. While Mark had worked to keep Bailey away from Donna's family, in 2019, Rebecca worked with Donna's family to bring them back together, fulfilling what they all knew Donna would want, for her family to be part of Bailey's life. Bailey now calls Sarah Jane and Ira her grandma and grandpa. We hope this video did justice to Donna Winger and Roger Harrington. Donna's mother said that Mark is like a chameleon, and it's that exact fact, that chameleon factor, that makes this case so terribly frightening. What do you think of this case? Do the Mark Wingers of this world make
I think
it
he looks like my
impossible
buddy
to
from high
determine who
school.
to trust? Please share what you think about this case in the comments below. And of course, if you like...
That's what I think.
What do you think of EU's performance at LAN? I thought this was EU's LAN. If any LAN was supposed to be EU's LAN, I thought it was gonna be this one. And then the finals, everyone was just shit. I genuinely reckon we would have gotten top 3, or maybe even won the tournament if we weren't contested.
I do not see E8
I mean,
yet. They did jump. E8's going.
I've always like ego and shit aside, right? My whole career, every time I won or shit like that, I've never like put other people down. In the sense that it's like just for the sake of ego, right? Like I don't like if you win a tournament and shit like that, and you start like saying shit like, I'm so much better than you and shit like that, right? Like unprovoked, it's just really weird. You know what I mean? Like that type of ego shit is super weird. So even if E8 did finish on 0 points, they would have definitely heard the end of it. Oh, I wouldn't have kept taunting. I mean, I would have probably done like some comment, like if Sack was like, I shouldn't have contested, you know, it was stupid, then I'd leave it alone completely. But if Sack was like, yeah, should have, the contesting was smart or some shit, then I'd definitely taunt him, you know. I do want to say something. Before there is no beef left. Talmaj, the coach for E8, he apologized to us before the contesting started. He said, "I'm sorry this is happening. My IGL is stubborn. There is no way for us to convince our IGL to stop it." Sap, Toe, and Shubi did not want to contest either. Only Sack wanted to do it. I asked Sap,
That's so toxic.
why him and Shubi just didn't land somewhere else, and he said, they said we couldn't. Even if we did land somewhere else, Sack would just solo con. So no one on E8 wanted to do this. On top of that, to add salt to the wound, the team that won was the checkpoint team. E8 lands checkpoint. E8 got 8 points from Cito in losers. It means their E8 Cito is shit. E8's checkpoint, however, is actually pretty good. Right? So we went in contesting this shit, expecting them to leave. If we win, they will leave, surely, right? Talmash, Sap, and Shubi does not want to do this and are being forced by their IGL. We beat them 5 times in a row and they still didn't leave. There's like a picture of 07 and E8's booth talking. And basically what we did when we went over to the booth was me saying, or like all of us saying, yo, listen boys, beat you guys 5 times, can you just leave now? This is stupid. So we're over their booth, right? I poke Talmash on the shoulder, he turns around and he's like, you know, he's like sad, he's defeated. And I'm like, yo, can you poke Sack on the shoulder? So Sack turns around, Shubi and Sap, they just look at their monitors, they don't turn around one single time. Sack turns around, and this is Sack's reaction. Yeah, well, the thing is, we just have to win one time. I know we can beat you guys. No, we're not leaving. This is just, I kid you not, he was tweaked out the wazoo, bro. He couldn't keep eye contact. He was looking around everywhere. Anyway, they didn't want to leave. Sack didn't want to leave. Teammates, Shubi and Sap, they seem like cool dudes, right? I've played scrims with them and shit like that. They seem like cool dudes. But they must be some of the most beta males in the world. Because imagine your IGL says, I want to do this. And you are just a good boy and says, I don't like to, but okay, if I have to. You know what I mean? Stand up for yourself. Not only that, I then proceeded to tell Sack, like, well, this just doesn't really make sense. We beat you guys 5 times, why aren't you just leaving? Sack then continued to say, well, I'm making money to lose. You're not making any money. I make $9,000 a month. I'm making $9,000 to lose. I'm making $9,000 to lose. And he just repeated himself. And I was like, dude, are you seriously flexing money? I said that verbatim. You're seriously flexing money. I make 4,000 a month. And I'm making 5,000. And I'm making 9,000 a month. And it was at that point I knew I was dealing with a brain dead. So going into game 6, right? I know I'm crazy. But fuck me. This guy's actually crazy. You know? So game 6. I think it was a mistake for us to go to their booth. It was a mistake. Because I think it gave them confidence boost. And I think it pissed us off.
Welcome back.
So, if Sack sees this right now, he's probably gonna react to it with like something along the lines of, yeah, I played my cards correct. I pretended to be crazy so that they would leave, right? Something like that, right? And to that, I just want to respond. I am, no matter what he says, I am 1,000% convinced that it was not an act from Sack. Based on what Shubi, Sap, and Talmash told me. I am convinced it was not an act, no matter what he has to say. Anyway, we then proceeded to game 6. And I think because it really pissed us off that Shubi and Sap didn't do anything about it. It really pissed me off that Sack didn't care. So going into game 6, I think that's why we lost. And I think they had a confidence boost. Anyway, this is game 5. All of 07 wanted to do this. If anything, I was the least guy that wanted to do this, right? Because I was saying, what if we take Command Center from Alliance? Don was saying, look, boys, we fucking agreed to Lancito. And I was like, yeah, you know what, fuck it, our confidence is pretty good right now. And Amphi and Nags were like, Nags specifically, Nags was like, nah, I'm fucking on it. Amphi's like, yeah, let's fuck them. And we said some other words that we can't say here on stream. But the team wanted this. Every single one on the team wanted this. We wanted to do this. So obviously, if we do this, we have to commit to it, right? You have to show you're crazy. I make 9,000 a month. I'm making 9,000 to lose. And then I just left. I couldn't be asked. This is so brain dead.
Third party getting landed on.
So what happened is the flight path was really good. And E8 they oobed. Nags didn't get a weapon. Amphi got beat. Actually, Amphi didn't get beat, but there's two guys in Amphi. Nags got beat by 5 seconds. So we just lost this con pretty hard. Didn't think so. 9 months, appreciate it. I didn't get a weapon either. So it's like it's really unfortunate, right? Nags no weapon, me no weapon, and then once I get a weapon, I don't clip him. I should have killed the conduit right here. I missed. And then I got shot in the side as well.
07 losing. No reaction here from E8. It was at least.
And then just think about it, bro. E8 don't get 3P'd. Game 1,
well,
we
it's
get
full.
3P'd. Game 3, we get 3P'd. Game 4, we get 3P'd. Game 5, we get 3P'd. Game 6, they don't get 3P'd. But one thing that's good about 07 is that we all... every time we get tilted, we are better, bro. 07 never has a bad mental. Basically. No, because normally bad mental implies bad play, right? But we all...
I do not see E8
I mean...
yet. They did jump E8.
Say hi, Cece. Say hi, Belle.
Alright.
It's the middle of the night. And 27-year-old Allison Botha, having just been brutally attacked, has just watched her assailants finally drive away, leaving her for dead. Having been stabbed 37 times in the abdomen and 17 times in the neck, she pondered just laying there and allowing the inevitable to happen. But she didn't. Instead, recognizing the gaping hole in her abdomen and her intestines spilling out from it, she tucked them in as best she could and used a shirt to hold them in place. Then, she somehow managed to get to her feet to search and hope for help. But the moment she stood up, her head began to tilt backward, and she noticed that her vision was fading in and out. So she put her hand to her neck and realized that she had been nearly decapitated, which was making her head shift out of place.
That's crazy.
She would have to walk with one hand holding her head in place and the other supporting her intestines. She journeyed toward the headlights that signaled a nearby highway and hoped to find an angel passing by. Welcome back to Crime A to Z, where we detail cases and criminals from their very beginning until well after other reporting ends. Today we'll be
I'll be right back.
one of the most chilling and hard to believe cases.
I gotta go grab a glass of water.
The case of Allison Botha. This case is made doubly rare by both the extreme brutality of the attack and the attackers, as well as the miraculous survival of the victim, especially given the incomprehensible extent of her injuries. Let's dive in. Located on the southeastern coast of South Africa sits the vibrant coastal city of Port Elizabeth. Bordering the Indian Ocean, the city is known for its beautiful beaches, as well as being relaxed and laid back. Port Elizabeth is where Allison Botha was born on September 22nd, 1967. To parents Claire and Brian Botha. Allison's parents would separate when she was 10, after which she lived with her mother and her older brother. Allison was a bright student, excelling academically, and even achieving the esteemed position of head girl at the Collegiate High School for Girls in Port Elizabeth. After graduating high school, she took a few years off to travel and discover herself before returning to Port Elizabeth, where she began a new job as an insurance broker. Allison was happy and content, with family, friends, and limitless possibilities before her. That was until she encountered Franz Dutoit and Theuns Kruger. Franz Dutoit was a 26-year-old father and husband with a long and extensive criminal history dating back to his childhood. He had an early fascination with arson, having set fire to a school during his teenage years. His crimes would escalate over the years, and eventually he became known for his violent attacks against women. But despite multiple accusations of rape, he would get off nearly every time with a minor slap on the wrist. Many speculate that it was due to his father's position as a police officer. In contrast to Dutoit, 19-year-old Theuns Kruger came from a deeply abusive background. Instead of having a police officer as his dad, Kruger's father was a career criminal, spending most of his life behind bars. And while his buddy Franz considered himself a ladies' man, Kruger knew that he didn't stand a chance. He was neither good-looking nor smart, and he was aware that women found him repulsive. It was the constant rejection from them that fueled his deep-seated anger toward women. With both men feeling socially alienated, Dutoit and Kruger bonded in their shared deviance and callous disregard for others. Both also dabbled in Satanism. The duo was dangerous, and sadly, Allison Botha would soon find this out. On December 18, 1994, Allison Botha had just enjoyed a day at the beach in Port Elizabeth with some friends. Afterwards, she invited them back to her apartment where they would continue their evening with games and pizza for dinner. As the evening came to a close, most of the friends headed home. The last friend, however, did not have a ride home. Given safety concerns in the neighborhood after dark, Allison offered to drive the friend home, an offer that would change the course of her life. After safely dropping off her friend, Allison returned home just after 3 o'clock in the morning. Someone had taken her usual parking space, so she was forced to find a different parking spot further away from her apartment. Allison parked her car in the new spot. Then she reached over to retrieve a bag of clean laundry from the passenger seat. That's when she felt a wave of warm air just as her driver's door swung open. The man outside her door pressed a knife against Allison's throat and told her to move over or I'll kill you. The assailant told her that his name was Clinton, but he would later be identified as Franz Dutoit. He assured her that he only needed her car and that as long as she obeyed, he wouldn't harm her. Allison gave him her car keys as he demanded. Gripped by terror, she remained silent as the man took control of the wheel. They would pick up another man, Theuns Kruger, before venturing into the deserted outskirts of the city. As they traveled down the dark, deserted path, Allison caught the eyes of the second man in the rearview mirror. Unlike the driver, who at least pretended to be friendly, the man in the back made no such effort. He glared at her like a hunter glares at his vulnerable prey. She knew she was in trouble and began to dread that she might not make it out of this situation alive.
Hello?
Once they'd reached a secluded location, far from any witnesses or potential rescuers, the two men locked their eyes onto Allison. Then they revealed to her their brutal intentions. They openly confessed their vile plan to rape her. They asked Allison if she would fight back. Overwhelmed by fear, Allison said no. Allison was pulled out of the car and callously thrown onto the ground atop piles of broken glass, dirt, and debris. The first man, Franz Dutoit, sexually assaulted Allison before passing her over to Theuns Kruger, who proceeded to viciously and brutally rape her as well. Given their prior arrests on rape charges, the two men reached a chilling conclusion. In order to evade justice for their crime, they would have to leave no witnesses behind and escalate their crime to murder. So while he was raping Allison, Kruger tightened his grip around her throat, attempting to choke the life out of her during the assault. The strangulation resulted in a loss of bodily functions, and Allison evacuated her bowels, a reflex that would later prove to be life-saving. The strangulation caused her to drift in and out of consciousness, but she was still alive. Frustrated that she didn't seem to be dying, the pair decided to take the more brutal, definitive route of stabbing Allison. They'd stab her 37 times in the abdomen. The attack was so vicious and concentrated in her abdominal area, her flesh was torn wide open and her organs exposed. With such a brutal attack, Franz and Thunes were certain that she was dead, until Allison's leg twitched. So, in a final bid to end Allison's life, the pair ruthlessly inflicted an additional 17 stab wounds directly to her neck. Amidst the haze of her fading consciousness, Allison could see the vague silhouette of an arm swaying back and forth in front of her face, accompanied by a sickening wet sound, which she would soon realize was her own flesh being slashed open. She would later recall that, "All I could see was an arm moving above my face. His movements were making a sound, a wet sound. It was the sound of my flesh being slashed open. He was cutting my throat with a knife. I felt no pain. But it was not a dream." "Do you think she's dead?" one of the attackers asked. The other replied, "No one can survive that." Satisfied that Allison was indeed dead, Franz Dutoit and Thunes Kruger talked amongst themselves, using each other's real names as they climbed back into Allison's car to drive back to the city. Leaving her for dead would turn out to be the deadly pair's costly mistake. Allison was lying on the ground, severely injured but miraculously still breathing. She was sure she was going to die, but was determined to leave a message behind before she did. She used her fingers to scrawl 2 names into the dirt, Franz and Thunes. Below the names of her attackers, she added another message, this time to her family. "I love Mom." But despite her dire situation and how easy it would be to just succumb to her life-threatening injuries, Allison was not ready to give up. She could see headlights in the distance through the bushes. If she could make it to the road, she may have a chance at survival. So despite her exhaustion and the overwhelming odds against her, Allison mustered enough strength to start moving. While she continued to drift in and out of consciousness, her first order of business was to somehow secure her organs that were by now spilling out of the gaping hole in her abdomen. Having been stripped naked, she found her denim shirt nearby and tied it around her body in an attempt to hold her intestines in place. But it was not very secure. She initially started crawling, but then quickly realized that crawling was too time-consuming. So she decided to rise to her feet and walk. But after standing up, her head unexpectedly shifted backward and her vision faded in and out. Her attackers had sliced into her neck so extensively that she was nearly decapitated. She had no choice but to walk with one hand supporting her intestines and the other holding her head in place.
That's
She would
crazy.
later recall, "I pulled my head forward with my free hand and my vision returned.
That's
at least
disgusting.
temporarily. I fell many times, but managed to get up again until I finally reached the road." On the road is where Allison's luck would finally change. Once she arrived, she was thoroughly exhausted. But despite her condition and all that she'd endured, she had the presence of mind to target the best place to position herself to draw attention. She collapsed in the middle of the road on the white line. She remembers a car approaching shortly after that, slowing down, but then continuing on once they saw her naked, bloodied, brutalized body. Then another car. This one contained some vacationing friends from Johannesburg, one of whom was Tyan Eilert, a young veterinary student. Tyan and his friends were horrified at the sight of the bloodied, mutilated body in the road and immediately stopped to help. Tyan leaped out of the
He's
car,
mean.
taking Allison's trembling hand. He offered what comfort he could to the barely conscious Allison. Drawn on his veterinary knowledge, he
Excuse
tended to
me.
her exposed thyroid and fashioned his shirt into a makeshift bandage to stem the flow of blood from Allison's ravaged neck.
What a hero.
To keep her conscious, Tyan asked Allison simple questions. Without the ability to speak, Allison communicated by silently squeezing the stranger's hand. Once for yes, twice for no. Tan would later recall, "God put me on that road that night for a reason." He would spend a full 45 minutes talking with her, asking questions and comforting her, until an ambulance finally arrived after what should have been just a 15-minute drive. The paramedics' expressions upon first seeing Allison were telling. Anyone who saw her didn't think that she would make it through such a brutal attack. When it was time to move Allison to the ambulance, she refused to let go of Tian's hand. Sophie rode along with her to the hospital. The hospital staff were shocked by the severity of Allison's injuries upon her arrival. One doctor, Alexander Angelov, later said that he'd never seen such severe injuries in his 16 years of practicing medicine.
It's crazy.
Despite being stabbed over 50 times, miraculously, none of them hit any vital organs or arteries. And
You have to be really shitty at murdering somebody to not fucking murder them and do that much damage.
Never turned septic.
Just saying.
An extremely life-threatening infection brought on by bacteria, common to originate in the intestines. And she also didn't develop any infections, even though her gaping wounds were covered with dirt. Defying
That's
all
crazy.
expectations, Allison managed to survive the extensive 3-hour
God was on her side.
As a
You know what I'm
result of her
saying?
throat injuries, a breathing
God
tube
damn.
was inserted into her windpipe. And even though she was not able to speak, she was still able to identify the 2 men responsible from a photo lineup presented by detectives. She remembered everything about the attack, which helped authorities arrest Dutoit and Kruger. Given their extensive criminal records, apprehending Dutoit and Kruger was a straightforward task for the detectives. They were arrested the following day and presented to Allison in an in-person lineup. They utilized a one-way mirror to shield Allison from being seen by her attackers, South Africa's very first use of such a mirror. Although the pair attempted to alter their appearance, Allison easily picked them out of the lineup. Dubbed the Ripper Rapists by the media, the despicable pair faced a litany of charges, including kidnapping, rape, and attempted murder. When police brought Dutoit in for questioning about Allison,
Bro, that charge should be worse than attempted murder. What they did to that chick, like her head was hanging on by a thread.
he promptly confessed. He handed over a ring caked in blood that belonged to Allison. They definitely had their man. Dutoit then claimed that he was possessed by a demon and needed an exorcism. Surprisingly, authorities arranged for a man in the cloth to perform the ritual.
What?
But not even an exorcism could protect Allison's assailants from facing justice. On June 12, 1995, the trial began. One of the defense lawyers...
They gave him an
refused
exorcism?
services for
What the
ethical
fuck?
reasons, after familiarizing himself with the details of the case. Allison was able to face her attackers and testify against them. 3 other women would also step forward. A student who had earlier been raped by Dutoit, and a pregnant woman who had been raped by the 2 men just weeks before Allison's horrific attack. The attackers had warned the pregnant victim to not go to the police, which she promptly did once she was released. This likely fueled their determination to never leave any future witnesses alive. Sadly, after the pair had been arrested for the attack on the pregnant victim, they were quickly released. The 3rd woman who came forward had narrowed...
What? How do you just release someone that just raped a pregnant woman, bro? Like, that makes no sense. What the fuck?
Narrowly escaped the same harrowing fate around the same time as Allison's attack. She had noticed 2 men watching her as she pulled into a parking spot. She was quick to lock the doors as they sprinted towards her car. She would later recognize the 2 men from the news reports about Allison as the same men from that night. With the overwhelming evidence against them and impactful testimonies from their victims, on August 7th, 1995, the verdict came back. Guilty on all charges.
Hopefully they get the death
Horrified
penalty.
by the extreme level of cruelty and violence in the case, the judge sentenced Franz Dutoit to 3 life sentences,
Wow, that's it?
while Ferenc Kruger received 1 life sentence plus 25 years. Judge Chris Jansen would recall, "I needed to make it clear that they were a threat to society and should never be released."
Should be dead.
Unfortunately, all prisoners sentenced before October 2004 in South Africa are eligible for parole.
That's fucked. Those people ever get out, they're just gonna do it again.
Following the trial, Allison Botha descended into depression. Not surprising given the harrowing experience she had endured. However, a ray of hope emerged when she reconnected with a friend who shared his own traumas and mental health struggles. Their connection deepened, leading to their marriage in February 1997, and later, welcoming 2 sons. The encounter with Allison Botha that fateful night profoundly impacted Tyan Eilard, the young man who bravely came to her rescue. Tyan realized that his true calling lay in the field of medicine, where he would make a lasting difference in the lives of others. Motivated by the life-altering experience, he made the bold decision to change career paths to become a doctor. He and Allison remain friends to this day, and he even assisted with the delivery of one of Allison's sons. Over time,
Saved your life and us in your
Allison's
coochie.
nightmarish ordeal into a beacon of hope. In 1998, she published her survival memoir titled, I Have Life, which resonated worldwide and became a bestseller, translated into 7 languages. Inspired by her remarkable story, Allison became a sought-after motivational speaker, traveling extensively to share her experiences and inspire other victims. Amidst these triumphs, a production company approached Allison to adapt her story into a film. She agreed to collaborate with director and writer Yuga Carlini, whose passion for her story was ignited by one of Allison's powerful speeches. During filming, Franz Dutoit contacted Carlini using a prison warden's cell phone. Despite inflicting unimaginable pain upon Allison and countless other women, he shamelessly offered an on-camera interview in exchange for a signed letter of forgiveness from Allison and profits from her book and speeches. He claimed that he was entitled to part of the profits since, without him, she wouldn't have a story to tell. His offer was emphatically declined. The film was finished and released in 2016, becoming the first movie in the history of South African cinema to be selected for the Dance with Films of Los Angeles Indie Fest. In 2016, the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University honored Allison with the Council Prestige Award, recognizing her commitment to empowering others. Franz Dutoit is currently serving his sentence at Groupleigh Prison, a maximum security prison located in the Free State Province of South Africa and housing inmates convicted of serious offenses. Thunes Kruger spends his days locked away in CMAX prison located in Pretoria, South Africa. It is one of the most secure prisons in the country, housing inmates who, like Kruger, have been convicted of serious and violent crimes. It's designed to minimize the risk of escape and maintain a high level of security at all times.
Bro, there's this high-risk security prison in Russia. The fucking people never even see outside a window, bro. It was like the most hardcore-looking prison I've ever seen. They just like inside, they get chained to the other person's like legs and have to like army crawl through the fucking prison and shit. It's all like underground. It's almost like impossible to fucking escape.
Through such brutality. Allison
It was
is as strong as
insane.
they
Just
come.
looking at it, it was
And
just
we
like,
hope this video
yeah, I can
gives
see
it
why
justice.
it's like, you know, got like at least 100 prisoners a year committing
Please
suicide.
do share them in the comments below.
You can see why.
And if you like how we presented this case, we
Shit
really
looked
appreciate you
bleak,
hitting like
like their
and definitely
future,
hit
you know?
subscribe so you never miss a single video.
Bleak like their future.
Say hi, Cece. Say hi, Beth.
Bro, what the fuck am I reading? There's this one. Wow, the Tyrese Halliburton actually just clutched up for the Knicks. That's crazy. There's this one video that says murdered her family because they made her pay rent. Imagine, bro. Holy fuck. Imagine. Oh my god. Time is it 10:26? Nuggets are just crushing them tonight. Let's go. Hopefully that keeps up. Nuggets in 7.
Hello, you absolute legends. For the past 6.5 years, a group of dedicated gamers known as Team 0% had been on a mission, a quest, to beat every single level ever uploaded to the Nintendo servers for Super Mario Maker on the Wii U. This was a gargantuan task, as gamers from all around the world had created and uploaded literally millions of levels over the course of the game's lifespan. But in November of 2023, Nintendo threw a wrench into the mix when they announced that in April of 2024, it would be closing down these Super Mario Maker online servers for good. This effectively gave Team 0% a time limit. If they couldn't beat every level by April, they had failed. At first, this seemed like too great a task. There were simply too many levels to clear. But after several creators put out a rallying cry, thousands of gamers came together to help Team 0% finish the job. And by mid-March 2024, they had defied all odds. Less than a month before Nintendo would shut off the servers for good, only a single level remained unbeaten. The only problem was that this one remaining level was hard. Really, really hard. It was only 12 seconds long, but most of those 12 seconds required frame-perfect inputs. Despite being uploaded in 2017, when players weren't as good as they are now, this level was still giving all of the current top players huge problems. But it did seem fitting. What better level to be the last than the one that gave everyone the biggest challenge? Hype was building. Game journalists were writing articles, videos were being made about this final level. People were preparing to celebrate this amazing achievement by Team 0%. And then, while everyone was putting on their party hats and planning their celebrations, the creator of this final level confessed that it was fake. He had cheated in order to upload it, and it wasn't a legitimate level. After 6.5 years, Team 0% had at last achieved their goal. But unfortunately, what should have been a beautiful moment was now spoiled. Instead of an epic climax where legendary gamers were racing head-to-head to beat the final stage, and my hero emerging as victorious, it was all over with a whimper. No fanfare, no hype, no enthusiasm. All because of the confession of a cheater who had led the community on for almost 7 years. In this video, we will take a look at what happened to the final Mario Maker stage, called Trimming the Herbs. And this situation is interesting because, as with a lot of cheaters, this one probably should have been exposed years earlier. But the creator was a quote-unquote good player who had built trust in the community, and it was exactly this trust that let them get away with it for so long. I really hope you enjoy. Now legends, this video is sponsored by the heroes over at Red Magic. Red Magic specialize in creating professional gaming equipment, and they have just released their brand new gaming mobile, the Red Magic 9 Pro. The Red Magic 9 Pro is specifically designed for people like you and me that like to use our phones for gaming. The specs are insane, featuring a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor and a huge 16GB of RAM. But personally, I really love the battery, which boasts a massive 6500 mAh. With other phones, I'm afraid to game while I'm out because it drains the battery so quickly. But with the Red Magic 9 Pro, battery is never an issue, by beating it in some way that isn't possible after you upload it. Thankfully, this doesn't end up causing too many problems, because if a level is impossible to beat, any good player can immediately tell. For example, if the end is completely blocked off and there is literally no way to reach it, you can safely assume this level was hacked. The best players have a good sense of what is or isn't possible, so whenever these impossible levels come up, they are simply disregarded, and players aren't expected to clear them. When it came to Trimming the Herbs, however, it was a perfect storm that allowed this particular level to remain undetected as fake right until the very end. This meant that Team 0% still had this level as one that needed to be cleared if they were to achieve their goal. The creator of Trimming the Herbs was a player by the name of Ahoyo, and this person was a very active player and a very active member of the Mario Maker community. Throughout 2017, Ahoyo would stream hundreds of hours trying to create and clear levels, the most famous of which was a level by the name of Bombs 5. At the time, it would have been considered one of, if not the hardest levels ever made.
That's crazy.
Ahoyo claimed to have spent thousands of hours on this one level alone, and because of the fact that he streamed a lot of his attempts, he proved that he was a really good player. He wasn't just a good player either, he was a great contributor to the community. In 2017, he created and hosted a level design competition called PogChamp. This was a competition to find and highlight difficult or interesting levels. As part of that competition, he even submitted his own level called Trimming the Herbs. The level was relatively short, at only 12 seconds long, but it was extremely difficult. I'm not going to do a full breakdown of just how difficult trimming the herbs is, but I will link to a great breakdown video by The Beast in the description if you are really interested. The important thing to know is that it required an insane amount of frame-perfect inputs to clear. Ahoyo also uploaded a clear video of him beating the level, which showed exactly how it was done. This video is super important because it proved that it wasn't a hacked upload. The level really was beaten. While trimming the herbs was insanely difficult, at the time, no one really batted an eye. This is because no one knew just how difficult it was. If you truly want to know how hard a level is to beat, you need a very good player to spend a considerable amount of time trying to beat it. And at the time, no one played trimming the herbs. The unfortunate fact is that trimming the herbs is not a fun level to play, and the beginning
I
is
believe
so
it. It looks like
difficult
shit.
that no one could get through 3 seconds of it. Therefore, if anyone did play it, they'd play it for a very short amount of time, get frustrated, and then quit. So while people knew it was hard, it wasn't until years later in 2024, when Team 0% needed to beat it, that we saw very good players actually take it seriously. It was at this point the true difficulty became apparent. In February 2024, one of the top current players, Yoshi, invested dozens of
Yoshi? It's Yoshi, bro.
and after playing the level for a decent amount of time, he explained in a Twitter post that he had come to the conclusion that it was likely cheated. The level was simply too hard, especially for a player all the way back in 2017. Over the past 7 years, Mario Maker players have gotten considerably better. And this is also true for any other game, whether it's a challenge game like Mario Maker or a speedrunning game. A top player from today would dismantle any player from 2017. There really isn't a believable reason why Ahoyo should have been able to create and clear a level so challenging back then. But there was even more to the story, because there was another giant red flag that indicated Ahoyo may have been cheating. Remember before how I mentioned Ahoyo had spent years trying to clear a level on stream? This was the level he called Bombs 5. Well, he never did end up beating Bombs 5, and in 2017, he stopped streaming his attempts. Then in 2021, when Nintendo announced they would stop accepting new level uploads to their servers, Ahoyo mysteriously appeared again and uploaded Bombs 5. He claimed that he had beaten it years earlier, but just didn't feel like uploading it. He even included another clear video, again demonstrating that the level wasn't hacked. But there was a problem with the video Ahoyo uploaded, and this problem was noticed about a month later. The actual level itself in his Bombs 5 clear video was ever so slightly different to the level that Ahoyo uploaded to the Nintendo server. We are talking tiny differences that barely make any difference whatsoever. In his own clear video, there is a muncher here near the end of the stage, but in the actual level that was uploaded, this had been replaced with spikes. So this means that Ahoyo beat the stage twice, once to beat the level he uploaded, and once to beat the level for his clear video. This obviously makes no sense. He spent hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours on stream trying to beat it, and couldn't. Then magically after he stopped attempts, he did it not once, but twice. And for no discernible reason other than to make minor cosmetic changes to the level. When this was discovered, some people naturally assumed that Ahoyo was cheating in some way, but they didn't know how. And without any solid proof, nothing really came of it. Remember, in 2021 when Bombs 5 was uploaded, no one was thinking about trimming the herbs. No one knew just how improbable trimming the herbs was because no one had played it. So at this time, they still weren't able to properly connect the dots. However, in early 2024, people started to piece everything together, which brings us back to Yoshi. In his Twitter post, he explained that he thought trimming the herbs was cheated for 2 main reasons. 1, the level was too hard for a player in 2017, and 2, that same player had another extremely suspicious level, Bombs 5. In mid-March, trimming the herbs became the last unbeaten level, and it started to get a lot more attention. By this point, many top players had now sunk a decent amount of time into trimming the herbs, and everyone was still coming up short. Another top player and YouTuber, the Riley C, uploaded a video speculating that Ahoyo was cheating in some way. He stressed that not only was trimming the herbs too hard, but Ahoyo had beaten it far too quickly.
So in 1 month, he went from not hitting the 3rd piranha plant to getting consistent enough to beat the full level. Given his limited time that we established just a second ago, this is again highly suspicious.
Opinions were mixed, however. In a video defending Ahoyo, YouTuber Grand Pooh Bear said that in 2017, when Trimming the Herbs was uploaded, no one had the technology to cheat in this way, and therefore he simply couldn't be cheating. Because remember, Ahoyo had a video of himself allegedly beating the level. The only feasible way to cheat
Ancient
a
shard,
video
let's
like
go.
this was by using tools to give automated inputs to the game, i.e. a tool-assisted speedrun or TAS.
Could the clear video have been tasked? Listen. The thing with why the clear video wasn't tasked, chat, in 2017, we just didn't have the ability to do that on the Wii U. That's the #1 reason. We just simply didn't have the ability to do that on the Wii U. Secondly, this player has proven themselves over and over and over again. Like, we don't need to do this to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need to do this. I understand Carl Job's videos are fun. Like, we got to call it out. Like, this is a legit one. It's a legit video. It's been enough. This man has enough street cred that I'm fully
got enough
confident
street
about
cred.
it. And I'm also fully confident that it's going to get clear.
The Ahoyo situation was interesting because it highlighted again just how much people value their own perceived trustworthiness of a person. The reality is that Trimming the Herbs probably was too hard of a level for 2017, and the fact that Ahoyo uploaded a different clear video for Bombs 5 was insane. There is no reasonable, logical explanation that is more likely than he is simply cheating in some way, but people will overlook that if they think you're a good player. This is what continues to fascinate me, and it's why I will continue to preach that being a really good player doesn't make a person any less likely to cheat. This back and forth speculation didn't end up lasting long, as on the 23rd of March, Ahoyo confessed that he did in fact use external tools to clear his levels. He had built a device that could feed input straight into the Wii U. So it wasn't him beating the levels in his videos, it was a computer that was playing the Wii U for him. This entire situation is really unfortunate, because the reality is that there was nothing special about Trimming the Herbs, other than the fact that it was way too hard. And Super Mario Maker isn't the kind of game where uploading a cheated level is a huge crime. According to Ahoyo, he was planning on unveiling the truth almost immediately after uploading it, but after no one played it or cared about the level, he chose not to. If he had told the truth earlier, not only would no one have thought it was a bad thing, people would have thought the device he built was really creative and interesting. Ahoyo's fake level only became a problem because it ended up being the last level unbeaten by Team 0%. News articles were being written about it. Everyone was talking about Trimming the Herbs, and the hype surrounding it was huge. The irony is that Ahoyo chose the perfect time to confess to cause the maximum amount of damage. If he had confessed just 2 weeks earlier, or any time in the past 7 years, it would have been removed from Team 0%'s list, and therefore when they beat the level The Last Stand,
So we know the next legend to be getting reworked in Apex will be Lifeline. Finally, Lifeline mains will be getting some love. And just like with Revenant Reborn, during development, it seems like the devs have tested a lot of new abilities that they could be giving Lifeline, and a lot of these abilities seem to be going through development as we speak and are changing, and we're getting new information about what Lifeline's new abilities are going to be. So if you didn't know, Lifeline Revived is a new reworked version of Lifeline coming to Apex in the future. It was originally thought to be coming in Season 22, but new information tells us it's going to be releasing in Season 23. Now, in my opinion, it would make a lot more sense for Lifeline Revived to drop next season, because that would fit the schedule of having no new legend, and instead just having a legend rework. We also know in Season 22 we're getting the new district map. We can talk more about that later, but regardless, Lifeline Revived is just around the corner in only a couple of seasons time, and her abilities are really getting shaken up, because the devs want Lifeline to be more of a combat medic that can have an aggressive playstyle and get rewarded for that, rather than just sitting back and making sure you're there to heal your teammates. And they're going to be going
Let's
with
go.
a whole new approach with some pretty crazy new abilities. Now, thanks to Crowdrindo, we have more information, and it turns out they're testing a passive for Lifeline where she's able to glide in the air. You may be wondering, what on earth am I talking about? The first thing that comes to mind is her stories from the Outlands where her and Octane are on a heist and they fly away with their wingsuits. I mean, that would be awesome. But it's true, the devs are testing a new glide passive ability which would allow you, as Lifeline, to glide a small distance while in the air. So imagine you jump off a building, you could hold the jump button and you would glide forward rather than just falling straight down. And it sounds crazy to imagine Lifeline with movement, but this is exactly what the devs are cooking
That's
up.
sick.
And what's great is this is going to be in combination with her current passive ability, which allows her to revive your teammates using Doc rather than having to do it yourself. It's just an overall great buff to Lifeline. So it's going to be interesting to be able to use Lifeline with movement, but to any Lifeline mains at the moment, you won't be losing your revive passive, which is probably the strongest part of Lifeline's kit anyway, so it's a good job that they're not messing with that, because that would have been a really, really bad move. Now, things just get even better for Lifeline because the devs are also testing a new perk for all support legends. Now, at the moment, they can open support bins and they can also craft teammates banners, but there's a new support perk that they're planning where you can throw healing items as grenades. What? This sounds incredible, but yes, imagine
Healing items as grenades. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
throw one at your teammate and then it would hit them, explode, and heal them
Oh,
at distance. And
that's pretty
this
cool.
is even more OP than
I
it
thought they
sounds.
meant like you throw it at an enemy and it
Have to
turns into
wait
a fucking
for the
grenade.
animation to play for you
I was like,
using
what?
a syringe or a shield bat or a shield cell, because it would just explode and instantly heal you. So maybe it's going to heal you for slightly less health, and that's the payoff for having no animation at all, but that just sounds incredible. Basically a splash grenade that just heals you, but only support legends can do this. I'm super excited for this. I think it's going to be awesome.
I think that should be like a
Obviously, we don't
Lifeline
know if
only
this will
thing.
100% make it to the final build, but the fact that the devs are even toying with this is awesome. It sounds like a whole new Legends ability, but they're going to be giving it as a perk for every...
What's up, Shawnee boy?
Oh yes, I love this exclusive.
A tourist visiting a national park in Thailand happens upon a young woman from China sprawled out near the bottom of a cliff, having clearly tumbled from the top. He's not sure if she's dead or alive, but soon learns that she is miraculously alive. The tourist calls for help, which soon arrives and transports the woman and her husband, who's standing at a distance watching, to the hospital.
Gee.
At the hospital, police begin to question the account of this woman having fallen from the cliff, as she and her husband report. But with no witnesses, they rely on what they're told. Until the woman's time alone with an interpreter changes everything. Welcome back to Crime A to Z, where we detail cases and criminals from their very beginning until well after other reporting ends. Today we'll be talking about the unfathomable case of Wan Nan, the pregnant woman who was pushed off a cliff by her ruthless, cold-blooded husband, and he nearly got away with it. This case triggered a lot of jaw droppers, so be sure to comment in real time so we can see your reactions, especially during the hospital portion. And don't miss the Z section so you can see with your own eyes the final result of this horrendous incident. Let's get to it. Wang Nan was a success story. Having grown up in China, she finished school and became a wealthy businesswoman trading goods between China and Thailand. She was at the height of her success, having accumulated significant wealth and several real estate properties. Then, in 2017, 30-year-old Wang met the man of her dreams. 31-year-old Yu Xiaodong was incredibly charming. They began dating and he showered Wang with gifts, wrote her poems, and took her on romantic dates. She recalled, "Every morning he knocked at my door and prepared different kinds of breakfast for me. When we hung out, he always paid the bill before I wanted to. He appeared to not only have good taste, but also to be financially independent." Wang fell for him instantly, and the two were married within 2 short months. But very early on in the
You wouldn't
marriage,
even know
problems
someone in
began to
2 months.
surface.
How the fuck are you getting married? What?
Wang already knew that Yu was for a poor family. But what she didn't know and soon found out was that he had a gambling addiction, was thousands of dollars in debt, and spent 8 years in prison for robbery. As a result of his criminal record, he was unable to get a job. So he remained unemployed throughout their marriage and stayed home playing video games while Wang supported the couple financially. Yu would regularly pressure Wang for money to pay off his gambling debts. And wanting to help her husband turn a new leaf, Wang agreed. She paid off half of his 2 million yuan gambling debt, $390,000 US.
Bro, what a
After
woman,
that, the
man.
relationship began.
Dude, and this guy pushed her off of a fucking cliff. Dude, what a piece of shit. Like, as if he wasn't a piece of shit already for pushing her off of the cliff. Like, bro, look, you can see, like, the dent in my hair from where the thing was. Give me a hat. We can't be having that. Give me a hat. Can't be having that. But, bro, what a piece of shit. This lady pays off half of his debt. And this fucking scumbag goes and still tries to kill this girl? Oh, my God. Fucking scum of the earth, man. Unbelievable.
You're right.
Yo, Sean, are you still here, buddy?
But despite their problems, 2 years into their marriage, Wang learned that she was pregnant. She was elated. She continued her successful trading ventures. And in June of 2019, the couple traveled from their home in China's southeastern Jiangsu province to Thailand on a business trip to buy Thai products.
You want to take a toke with me?
While in Thailand, Yu took Wang to several
I gotta
national
grab a hat.
parks and seemed to be interested in all of their cliffs. Wang found that odd since Yu had an extreme fear of heights. One of the parks that Yu wanted to visit was Feitim National Park, which was famous for its majestic rock formations.
Oh.
They headed to the park on June 9th, 2019. And that is when the
This is
course
my
of
first
Wang
superior
Yang's
ever.
change
Come on.
forever. A tourist who was also visiting Feitim Park encounters Wang laying critically wounded on a trail at the bottom of the cliff. She had been laying in agony for nearly 30 minutes, but miraculously, she was still alive. She'd fallen 34 meters or 111 feet from the cliff above. She and her unborn child were able to survive the deadly fall after her fall was softened by several trees.
Her child.
Emergency personnel and officers
That's
were quickly
why.
called onto the scene. They were immediately
Unborn
suspicious of
child.
Yu, noticing that he was standing at quite a distance from the scene as the emergency crew tended to his wife. They interviewed him to learn what happened. The official story at the time, as reported the next day in the Bangkok Post, was that it was an accident. That Yu left his wife to go use the bathroom.
Cheers.
And when he returned, his wife wasn't there. He went to their car to get his phone and call her, but she didn't answer. So he assumed that she left some other way, and he began driving away, until he noticed the ambulance speeding along the road. He feared the worst and followed the ambulance, soon learning that his wife had fallen from the cliff. He surmised to police that his wife had passed out from being pregnant and fallen off the cliff. Wang was rushed to the hospital, where they determined that she had broken 17 bones, including in her arm, thigh, collarbone, and knees. She required over 200 stitches,
That's
and 100
fucking
steel
pain.
nails were inserted into her body.
Jesus.
And because of the large amounts of medications that they needed to administer to Wan, her baby would ultimately not survive. While Wan had fallen into a coma early on, she soon regained consciousness and was aware of the story that Yu had told them about her passing out and falling off the cliff. Wang knew otherwise, but she was helpless. She couldn't explain what really happened because at the Thai hospital, no one understood Mandarin Chinese. And more importantly, Yu never left her side. But she tried anyway. She mustered up as much strength as she could and managed to cry out, "Why did you do this to me?" Yu told her to shut up, and he threatened to finish the job if she did not.
That must be so scary.
他听到我反驳他了以后，3步并作2步的就走到我的床边上，跟我说：“你闭嘴，不要乱叫，这里没有人听得懂中文。”当时没有监控，也没有人证，警察只会把我带走进行询问。那我回来以后一定不会放过你的。我知道这个并不是威胁，这个他是在给我下第2次的死亡通知。我当时立马就闭嘴了。
It wasn't a threat, it was a second death notice. I love Asian people, bro.
Then, just one day after the incident, Yu tried to remove Wang from the hospital and away from people she could divulge the truth to, and most likely finish the job he had started without witnesses. But hospital staff stopped him.
当时他不管不顾医院的强烈反对，他就很疯狂的把我身上所有用来监护体征的，还有包括我脸上的面罩，全部都帮我直接拔掉了。
Boy, this guy's crazy. He's like trying to wheel her out of the hospital and shit.
当时医院的医护人员看到这个情况以后，全部都站在门口把他拦下来。他显得是非常暴躁，而且非常凶。
You should be arrested just for that.
医护人员大声的喊，他说我可以签这个离院负责书，他可以。
The ignorance of this man.
当时还好被医院的医护人员合力救下。
Eventually,
No regard
Wang
for
was
human
transported
life.
to a different hospital where Yu was not allowed to visit her. There, she had access to an interpreter and was finally able to share that Yu tried to kill her. The police were immediately called. And finally, on her 5th day in the hospital, Wang was able to give a full account of the incident to police. It supported their suspicion of foul play based on Yu's distant behavior at the scene, as well as an interpreter overhearing Wang's desperate first scream, asking Yu why he did this to her. She explained that upon Yu's request, The couple had gone to the park to watch the sunrise. They went to the cliff's viewing platform. And as they neared the edge of the platform,
That's a spooky
Yu
picture.
grabbed Wang's waist and romantically hugged her from behind. Then Yu, positioning his hand on her back, told her to go to hell, then pushed her to what he was certain would be her death.
Dude,
Wang
that's
told officers that she could
crazy.
not
Go
tell
to
the
hell
story
and you just
earlier
push her off
because
the
Yu
cliff.
would not leave
I
her
wonder what
side.
was going through her head in that.
Yu was arrested 2 days later.
I wonder what was going through her head as she was falling, you know? To have trusted someone so much. That's crazy.
Charged with attempted murder. Once he was arrested, it was discovered that his gambling debts were nearly double what he had claimed they were. Yu pleaded not guilty.
How can what?
During his trial, prosecutors argued that he tried to kill Wang to cash in on her 100 million baht or $2.5 million life insurance policy to pay off his gambling debts. Wang was also convinced that he was motivated by the prospect of inheriting part of both her real estate properties and her life savings.
Wow.
She asked the judge to give Yu the death penalty, considering that he
I
not only
agree.
killed her unborn baby, but that he caused her life-changing injuries. He ruined her health,
Mutilated
her
that woman.
career, her future, her life. Yu was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment and ordered to pay 1.1 million yuan in compensation.
How the fuck's he gonna
approximately
afford that? He's already in debt.
$170,000 US. For months, Wang was confined to a wheelchair. She had to move in with her parents so they could care for her. She underwent numerous surgeries and has spent the past 4 years undergoing intense physical therapy.
She's a beautiful
The
woman
difficult
too.
and
That's so
painful journey
sad.
paid off when, in April of 2023, 35-year-old Wang was able to walk unassisted
That's awesome.
for the first time in 4 years, without the use of a walker or a cane. Wang shared her experience on the Chinese social media platform Douyin. Yu Xiaodong appealed. It resulted in a second trial which, instead of a standard trial, was simply a review of documents. The result was the judge finding that there was not enough evidence to support intentional murder. And in 2021, he changed the conviction to attempted manslaughter instead and reduced Yu's sentence to just 10 years. It was a huge blow for Wang.
That's crazy,
Who was
bro.
reminded of the tape recording used in court of a conversation between her and Yu, where Yu had admitted to deliberately pushing her. Wang continued to appeal to the Royal Court of Thailand, and just last month, in June of 2023, they convicted Yu of attempted murder and handed down a final sentence of 33 years. In a cruel gesture by the courts, Wang remained trapped in her marriage because a Chinese court refused to grant her a divorce until Yu's legal appeal against the attempted murder conviction was concluded. With the ruling from the royal court finally handed down, hopefully, her divorce can now be granted. We agree with one of the people who posted a comment on Wang's social media account. That man is not a husband, but a devil. We're so impressed by Wang's determination to overcome such drastic injuries. And we've taken note from her experience.
It's a good synopsis
If ever
right
in a
there.
problematic relationship, don't go anywhere that has cliffs. What are your thoughts about this case? What would you have done in the hospital if you were in the same situation as Wang? Or even before that? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like how we present
Back-to-back bowstring drops.
for us,
Let's go.
and definitely hit subscribe so you never miss a
Huge.
single video.
Huge.
It's a hot and humid evening at the start of the Memorial Day weekend, and a 5-year-old boy has mysteriously vanished from his mother's sight at a local carnival. A massive search ensues until the wee hours of the morning, then continues at the crack of daylight. After several more hours of hundreds of officials and volunteers' exhaustive searching, authorities determine that any further efforts are futile. The boy
Bro, it
is
must be
simply
so
not
heartbreaking
there.
to hear.
As his grieving or not so grieving mother offers up wildly
Not so
confusing
grieving?
stories, authorities grow suspicious. Then, years later, she resurfaces in an encounter that's so bonkers, Hollywood would have rejected it for being too unbelievable. Welcome
Now
back
I'm
to Crime
interested.
A to Z, where we detail cases and criminals from their very beginning, until well after other reporting ends. Today, we'll be talking about the case of Michelle Lodzinski, a case where we looked at each other in disbelief so many times that we actually lost count. The case reminded us very much of the Susan Smith case, with its tearless pleas and baffling deception. Come along on this wild ride with us and determine for yourself what you think happened. And don't miss this case's Z section for its shocking surprise ending. Thank you to Fenati Cat 1 for recommending this case. It was a roller coaster ride, for sure. And just a reminder that if you end up liking this video, we always genuinely appreciate you hitting like and subscribe. And it also really helps us if you share. We appreciate you. Let's go.
Yeah, let me just share this video with my grandma. She loves true crime. Here, Grandma, this is how you use a phone. Make sure to subscribe. Like, what the fuck?
Michelle Lodzinski was born and raised in New Jersey along with her older brother and
Come on
sister
now.
and a younger brother. It was when Michelle was 16 and visiting her older brother in the nearby city of Walker, New Jersey, that Michelle met and began dating George Wiltsey. A year later, on August 6, 1985, when Michelle was 17, the pair welcomed a son, Timothy, who the family lovingly called Timmy. The relationship quickly crumbled, however, and 6 months after having Timmy, Michelle and the baby left and moved in with her sister in South Amboy, New Jersey. Having dropped out of high school, Michelle would take on various low-paying jobs, sometimes 2 at a time, and eventually move out of her sister's home and into her own apartment. Juggling work, her social life, and her son, Michelle struggled, relying on family and friends to help her watch young Timmy, and facing disappointment from 2 serious relationships who ultimately decided they were not ready to become stepfathers. At the beginning of
Both weren't
1990,
ready to
Michelle's
become
sister and
stepfathers.
mother-in-law, who were
So,
her primary
like,
source of childcare
what?
help, moved to Florida. It became even more difficult for Michelle. She was late for work often and would bring Timmy with her sometimes. And once Timmy
Bro,
began
that
school
chick's
himself,
nose
he was
is
also tardy
is
or
crazy.
absent frequently, with the school
The thing had
reporting
such a
63
curvature to
tardies
it.
and 25 absences in his first year. But despite the challenges Michelle faced,
Looks like
was
she broke her
widely
nose
regarded
at
as
some
a
point in her
loving,
life.
caring mother who was devoted to her
For
young
sure.
son, making sure he had everything he needed, saving up enough money to send him to St. Mary's private school for his kindergarten year,
St. Mary's?
taking him on vacations and special outings whenever she could. It was on one of those outings that the sinister basis of
I
the
wonder how
story
many
began
St.
to take shape.
Mary's schools there are in the world.
It was Friday, May 25th, 1991.
Catholic
the start
Catholic
of the
schools.
Memorial Day weekend. 23-year-old Michelle Lodzinski had made plans to take 5-year-old Timmy to the local carnival that was in town in nearby Sayville.
Where's my
Part of the day was to take
task?
Timmy shopping to pick out clothes that would go with the kindergarten graduation gown Michelle had just purchased for him the week prior. Michelle planned to complete the shopping in the morning, then take both Timmy and her infant niece to the carnival in the evening. When evening came around, however, Michelle headed to the carnival without the infant niece and without calling the infant's mother. She arrived at the carnival at about 7 p.m. that evening. Sometime around 7:30 p.m., Michelle ran into her 13-year-old niece, Jennifer Blair, along with Jennifer's friend. Michelle was
Jenny?
looking around frantically and told the girls that she'd lost sight of Timmy when she went to concessions to buy a soda. The 3 soon reported that the boy was missing to the Sayville police officer on site at the carnival. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, the officer called for backup. Additional officers arrived and joined in the search for the missing boy. The carnival was shut down, and despite exhaustive search efforts by the large volume of police officers, firefighters, trained dogs, and numerous volunteers that joined in, there was no sign of Timmy at the carnival or in the surrounding area. The search continued until 2 a.m. when it was finally called off for the night. The search for Timmy resumed the next morning at 5:30 a.m. with over 300 people searching the park and surrounding neighborhoods. Helicopters and diving units were deployed, leaving no stone unturned. By noon, the Sayville Police Department was convinced that given their exhaustive search, the boy was not in the park and there was nothing further they could do. So, they called off the search. Police had already searched Michelle's car the day of the disappearance in search of any clues, but found nothing. They searched it again this second day, along with her home, still finding nothing. 4,000 flyers were circulated throughout the community, and police continued to follow up on leads called into the station. Timmy's father, George Wiltsey, gets ruled out as a suspect since he was at home in Iowa at the time. Police interviewed carnival workers and visitors from that day to see if anyone recalled seeing the boy. 2 witnesses, as well as a group of teenage boys, were confident they saw someone who matched the description of Timmy before the time of the disappearance.
Yeah.
One witness said she saw and even had
Yeah,
a
hang on.
conversation with
I
Michelle
got.
prior to the disappearance, and there was no one with her. Police searched Michelle's apartment, but like with her car, found nothing helpful. They also placed a tap on her phone to record the phone numbers of all incoming calls. They interviewed her former boyfriends, Timmy's father, and anyone of interest. Timmy's face appeared on milk cartons displaying missing children, and he was even featured on America's Most Wanted twice, including just days after his disappearance. Police are initially baffled by this child disappearing amongst such a large crowd of people undetected, but once they begin interviewing Michelle, they begin to form suspicions. Michelle originally reported to police that at about 7:15 p.m., she left Timmy by the side of a trailer while she went to buy a soda from concessions. Then, when she turned around, he was gone. She also gave police an account of their activities prior to going to the carnival, which included playing kickball and visiting the petting zoo at Homedale Park that afternoon. However, according to the Homedale Park police, the lot where she said they parked was closed that day. Police interviewed friends and neighbors and couldn't find anyone who had seen her son that night. The last time anyone who knew him had seen Timmy was around 11 a.m. on the morning that he disappeared. When police interviewed Michelle about a week after the disappearance on June 4th, she reiterated her account that she lost sight of Timmy when she went to purchase a soda and that she had no idea where he was. But when they interviewed her again just 2 days later on June 6th, while she began by stating she didn't know where Timmy was, after a few hours she changed her story. She reported that she saw an older man take Timmy off of a ride and walk him to a younger man. She said she yelled out, but the older man told her to stay away or the boy is going to get injured. The detectives pressed further and she said, "You wanted to hear something, so I told you." She returned later that day and said she made up the story. That would be just the beginning of a bizarre string of stories. With her changing story, police focused in on Michelle. They called her back in the very next day for further interrogation with the same detectives, and she didn't disappoint. This time, her account changed even more dramatically. She told detectives that while Timmy was on a ride at the carnival, she was approached by a woman whom she knew by the name of Ellen. She said she knew Ellen because Ellen used to cash welfare checks at the bank where Michelle had worked as a teller a few years back. She claimed that she was also a go-go dancer at a local club. She said Ellen was accompanied by 2 men and a young girl, and offered to watch Timmy while Michelle purchased a soda. When Michelle returned, however, Timmy was gone, as were Ellen, the 2 men, and the young girl. Michelle explaining to detectives that she had withheld this information about Ellen out of concern for Timmy's safety. Given Michelle's ever-evolving story, police decided to enlist the help of her boyfriend, Fred Bruno. They had him secretly record her in an attempt to get her to share what truly happened. But they came up empty. Michelle told him the Ellen story of the moment, that she was currently telling police. So a week after their last interview with her, they called her in for another morning interview. Michelle began by sticking to her story about Ellen offering to watch Timmy during her soda run, but this time she added a twist. As she was walking to concessions, she said that one of the men came and put his arm around her shoulder and threatened her with a knife, telling her, "Timmy has a pretty face. You wouldn't want to do anything to mess that up. Keep walking and shut up." The detective pushed back. He told her that her account didn't make sense. If they had Timmy, why wouldn't they just take him instead of coming back to threaten her? She was already leaving Timmy with them. Why would they alert her that they were taking him? He asked her why she didn't yell out since she was in the middle of a busy carnival. She said that she was going to, but then the other man held a knife to Timmy too. The detectives weren't buying it. Otherwise, this would have been her original story. So, one of the detectives devised a scheme. He tells Michelle that he believes her because they've been tracking a kidnapping ring out of Berkeley that operates exactly as she's describing. He told her they say they're going to return the child to a specific location, but tell the parents they cannot tell the police if they want to get their child back. He said he knows they have told her the same thing, and that's why she's been lying to the police. She bought it. She agreed with the detective and said they told her she might get Timothy back in a month if she did not say anything. The detective told her he needed to know the location they told her. She said it was in the woods in an abandoned building near a tree, but when he pushed for a location of the building, she clammed up. And when another detective tried to break the silence by saying she was lying, she abruptly ended the interview and stormed out, telling them to charge her or she's leaving. Detectives were even more suspicious of Michelle after that. No innocent mother, concerned about finding her missing son, would ever go along with such a story. She'd be interrogated 2 more times, reciting her most recent story, and typically storming out by the end before she refused to participate in any more interviews. But despite Michelle's conflicting accounts, authorities had no concrete evidence to suggest that she was involved in Timmy's disappearance. So they continued pursuing any leads, until they finally caught a break. 5 months after Timmy's disappearance, a nature enthusiast school teacher was exploring the marshlands in the Raritan Center Business Park, just across the river from Sayreville. While exploring, he came across a small Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle sneaker, which is what Timmy was said to be wearing when he went missing. The teacher was aware of that, so he brought the shoe to the Sayreville Police Department. The shoe was shown to Michelle, who told police that it did not look like her son's shoe. So, the police stored it away. Meanwhile, the teacher, waiting to hear word about whether the shoe was connected to the missing child or not, grew impatient after weeks of not hearing anything back from the police. So, he reported his find to a local newspaper. The shoe was a front-page story the following morning, sparking renewed interest from the FBI and triggering forensic testing. This renewed interest and media attention also triggered Michelle to call the police station and tell them that the shoe may, indeed, have been Timmy's. She had previously provided the shoebox that the shoes came in. The discovered shoe matched the specifications on the box. It was Timmy's shoe. Police conducted a search of the area where the shoe was found, but didn't uncover any further evidence. A few months after Timmy's shoe was found, the moment everyone hoped would never come, came. Nearly 11 months after Timmy's disappearance, the FBI regrouped. They decided to re-explore every avenue they had already pursued in case they had missed something. One of the strategies was to research the marshy area where Timmy's shoe was found. And to everyone's surprise, nearly as soon as the search began, they found the matching shoe. Just 30 yards from where the first shoe was found 6 months earlier. No one could answer why the shoe wasn't found during the original search. They continued searching and ultimately discovered the skull of a small child, along with 11 other bones. They also found a shovel, a pillowcase, a large blue blanket, and a few other items. Timmy's remains were so decomposed that his cause of death was not able to be determined, and dental records were needed to identify him. Detectives informed Michelle that they had found Timothy's remains. According to them, she had no visible response. The family and community were heartbroken. The findings triggered a hunt for Timmy's killer. Police interviewed Timmy's father, but ruled him out since he was nowhere near the area at the time of the disappearance. They interviewed Michelle's ex-boyfriends, but none were considered suspects. Ellen, the mystery woman, was never found, despite the FBI's extensive resources and exhaustive search for her, including investigating every person named Ellen on welfare, all of whom Michelle said were not her Ellen, based on photo lineups. None of the people investigated sustained prolonged suspicion. Instead, their prime suspect was Michelle Lodzinski. Why? For starters, her ever-changing story. She also failed 2 FBI polygraph tests shortly after Timmy went missing, frequently asking the administrators how she was doing. In addition, many law enforcement officers, those close to her, and even the public felt that on several occasions, Michelle didn't show appropriate emotion for the mother of a missing child, at times outright laughing.
What was the time period from when you last saw Tim and then turned around and he was gone?
Had to be about 2 minutes or so. It was like they were take my money out of my pocket, paid the guy, gave me my change back, showed him, and turned around, he was gone.
Okay, so within this 2-minute period, Tim disappeared.
Yeah.
Michelle's position was that
Oh, bro, I'm getting
everyone
fucked
was
up
waiting to see
tomorrow.
a grieving mother on TV break down, crying, hysterical. because the public would thrive on that
That
stuff.
shit eating grin says
During the press
1,000
conference
words,
when
bro.
Michelle was
Oh,
asking for
dude.
prayers for her son. Reporters asked her why
Tomorrow's
she
gonna
showed
be a good
little to
night.
no emotion about her missing son, to which she replied, "I don't show emotion in the public, and I don't think I should have to because someone wants me to." Then, there was the fund. Before Timmy's remains were found, the surrounding communities never gave up hope. Volunteers formed a fund called Friends of Timmy to raise money to help find him. Michelle initially welcomed the efforts and even sat on the fund's board. The first
Oh, that's
fundraiser was
fucking
held at
funny,
Timmy's Catholic
man.
school, and upon Michelle's recommendation,
Oh.
was a Chippendale dancer event.
Tomorrow's
The
gonna
event
be
faced backlash, considered inappropriate for both a Catholic school event as well as a
Be a good
fundraiser
night.
to help find a missing child. Despite the backlash,
I'm
Michelle
glad I didn't end
insisted
up
the
partying
next
tonight,
fundraiser
bro.
also be a Chippendale dancer event.
'Cause that would've fucking
The board
sucked.
rejected the idea, and Michelle quit the board.
You
She
know what I
then
mean?
had an attorney send a letter to the fund which existed exclusively
Yeah, it'll be
to
interesting.
find her son, prohibiting them from using any photos or likenesses of Timmy in their efforts to find him.
It'll be interesting.
Another suspicious finding was that the marsh where Timmy's remains were found happened to be right behind an office park where Michelle previously worked. A fact that she failed to mention during her initial interviews.
Finally,
Also,
bro.
A few months after Timmy went missing, Michelle took a girls' trip with a friend to the Bahamas. She was recognized by 2 off-duty state troopers who also happened to be vacationing there. And, lastly, police received an anonymous, typed letter on the day that Timmy's remains were found. It named the man responsible for Timmy's death. It claimed the man had a grudge against Michelle and that he had asked for help killing Michelle and her little boy. Investigators noted that Michelle's name was misspelled, using only 1 L instead of 2. This immediately made law enforcement suspect Michelle herself of writing the letter, intentionally misspelling her name in an attempt to divert suspicion from herself. Especially since the man that was implicated was an ex-boyfriend.
I have no
and
idea
helped
what's
the
going
FBI
on in this
complete
show.
their behavioral analysis of her. The FBI analyzed the letter and checked it for DNA and fingerprints. And while they did find DNA, it was not Michelle's or anyone's they were aware of. Despite law enforcement's strong suspicions of Michelle, with no physical evidence linking her to her son's murder, the case grew cold. Michelle moved on with her life and moved in with her brother in a nearby town. She flew pretty much under the radar.
Shit eating grin,
Until
bro.
2 years later, in 1994, when Michelle would end up in the news again in the most unexpected way possible. Michelle had been kidnapped. For some time before she was
What?
kidnapped, Michelle had been telling friends and family that she was being stalked. Then one day, her brother found Michelle's car with its door open and engine still running, her glasses and purse still inside. Authorities searched her car, but didn't find anything worth noting with the exception of one item: the business card of an FBI agent with a note written on the back: "See you soon. It's not over." But this disappearance would not involve an extensive search.
SpongeBob
The following day,
fans? What
police
the fuck
received
is
a call
that?
from Michelle herself. She said she'd been released by her kidnappers in Detroit, Michigan, over 600 miles or almost 1,000 kilometers away. She claimed 2 FBI agents approached her at gunpoint, put a blanket over her head, then brought her to Detroit, where they released her. The FBI
Dude, I should make that an
believed her story
emote.
for
And
a
let's,
second.
I should make this an
Business card
emote,
found in her car
bro.
was a fake. There was no one by that
On
name
my
at the
on my
FBI.
thing.
They later
What
found
the
that she had
fuck?
the cards printed herself. They had the call that she made to the police department traced. It was made from a payphone near a Greyhound bus station. Digging a little deeper, they found that Michelle had purchased a Greyhound bus ticket from Newark to Detroit. She was not kidnapped. She took the bus. Detectives didn't know what to make of this hoax, but it confirmed their suspicions about Michelle's level of integrity and willingness to lie. If she would stage a kidnapping for herself, what else would she do? Many of Michelle's family members were furious. The roller coaster ride she was taking everyone on was both selfish and suspicious. Michelle pleaded guilty.
Bro, I haven't
making false
fucking
statements
gone
to
out
the
in
FBI
like
and
forever, bro.
fraudulent use of a
Been
government seal.
like
She was sentenced to 6 months of house arrest and
all
3
winter
years
anyway. I
probation.
haven't gone out all winter.
And she would later spend a
Other
day
than
in
to like
jail
have
after
drinks with my
stealing a
bro.
laptop
It's
from
gonna be
her
nice hanging out
employer
with the boy.
and giving it to her then boyfriend as a Christmas gift.
Actually, that's a lie. I went over
She
like
got
once,
busted
but
when
we
it had
played like a
service
game of
revealed
pool and then
that it
did.
was stolen.
Bro,
After that,
that's one thing
Michelle
I'm gonna
decided
do
it was
at my
time to
fucking
start
bar.
fresh.
I swear to God.
She moved to Minnesota, where
It's
her
gonna
other
have to have
brother
a
lived.
pool table.
There she got married, had 2 sons, then within 3 years, divorced and relocated to Florida, moving in with her older sister. She kept photos of Timmy in the house to let her other sons know that they had a brother. All the while, the case of Timmy's murder remained cold. An occasional tip would come in that the county prosecutors would follow up on, but each lead led to a dead end. After one particular false lead in the early 2010s, an investigator felt it might be time again to review the investigation, looking at everything from a fresh perspective. They realized that the evidence found along with Timmy's remains had never been shown to people close to Michelle, particularly the blanket and the pillowcase. So, they decided to focus on the blanket since there was little chance the young boy would have been carrying a large blanket around a carnival on what was the hottest Memorial Day weekend on record at the time. So they surmised that the blanket was taken from Michelle's home and used to cover Timmy after his death. Detectives determined that if they could link the blanket to Michelle, it would be powerful evidence. They reviewed photos of the inside of Michelle's apartment prior to her son's disappearance, and while there were some blankets present, none matched the blanket found in the marsh. So, over 20 years later, detectives began contacting anyone who may have had knowledge of the contents of Michelle's apartment at the time. Nearly everyone they contacted did not recognize the blanket as one that was in Michelle's home, with one exception. Michelle's niece, Jennifer Blair, now Jennifer Blair Dilcher. Upon Michelle's urging, Jennifer had moved to Florida to be near Michelle, since Jennifer had been struggling with some substance abuse issues. Michelle helped Jennifer
Happens
get
to the
into a
best of
detox
us.
facility and promised to watch Jennifer's children while she was getting cleaned up. However, once Michelle had Jennifer's kids, she decided that it was best for them to not.
I've never seen it either, Sean.
Determining her unfit.
But have fun,
So
brother.
while Jennifer was recovering in the facility, Michelle contacted Jennifer's in-laws
Have
and
fun.
handed the children over to Jennifer's mother-in-law, who took the kids back to New Jersey. Jennifer considered it the ultimate betrayal,
Sounds like a
especially
good
after all
night.
the years of support she'd had given Michelle. Now estranged from Michelle, detectives contacted Jennifer and asked her to try to rekindle her relationship with Michelle and solicit information about the murder. That approach didn't work. So next they asked her to come in to see if she recognized something. Jennifer arrived at the police station, not knowing what they wanted to show her. When she entered the room, there was a dirty, tattered blanket laying on the table. Immediately recognizing it as a blanket from Timmy's house where she babysat so many times when she was 13 or 14. She became
19 and 20
emotional.
in that movie? Damn.
Now that they had a witness placing the blanket
Time
in the
fucking
home,
flies.
on August 6, 2014, which would have been Timmy's 29th birthday, police arrested Michelle and charged her with the murder of her son. The criminal trial began on March 16, 2016, nearly 25 years after
2024,
Timmy was
bro.
murdered.
Feels like it was just
With the blanket being
2016
the
to
only
me.
evidence turning the case against Michelle into a viable one, and only the single witness tying the blanket to the house, the prosecution's connection was limited. But a few months before the trial, they caught a break. 2 other women who had babysat Timmy saw the photos of the blanket and stated that the blanket did indeed come from the home. One of those witnesses was 15 to 17 when she babysat Timmy a few times. The other was 14, again having babysat a few times 25 years prior.
Doesn't seem too fucking... Like, the evidence doesn't seem too compelling with that. 14 years ago? How are you gonna remember
What
that?
do you recognize it to be? A blanket that was in Michelle's home in order.
The prosecution contended that Timmy
Isn't that the Lord of the Rings? Yeah, it's, what is it? The Hunt of Gollum or whatever? Did you know, Sean, that The Hunt of Gollum is already a fan-made film?
They focused on the changes in Michelle's story, her unemotional behavior throughout the time her son was missing, and initially not acknowledging she worked near where her son
And it's
was.
actually a damn good film.
Among the witnesses they presented was
For
the
a fan
woman who
film.
said she spoke to Michelle at the carnival and never saw a child with her, nor did Michelle
And Peter
mention any
Jackson
child.
is helping to direct it with the guy. Well, direct it? Actually, I don't know if he is helping direct it. He's involved with the film
That he wasn't
in the
surprised when
slightest.
Timothy was attacked by the German Shepherd dog next door,
Let's go.
knowing that Michelle would still leave Timothy outside alone with the dog, despite his warnings for her to not do so.
He's still involved with the film. Peter Jackson. He's not directing it though. The guy that's like the main actor is what's his face?
bothered by
Andy
the
Secrets or whatever.
responsibility,
I can't remember.
and feeling like she was being pressured into having to watch him. He canceled the engagement after he considered whether Michelle would be a good wife, mother, and partner in life. And his answer was no to all three. He became engaged to someone else about 1 month before Timmy disappeared. The prosecution also called Michelle's brother's girlfriend at the time, who testified that on one occasion when she was watching Timmy, Michelle had to work late and instructed her to send Timmy home with the man the girlfriend did not know.
Yo, what's up, Bridget? What
Timmy
you
didn't
saying?
want to go with him, which made Michelle angry. So when Michelle arrived to pick Timmy
Eating
up,
Chipotle?
she pulled him down the stairs and
You know I've never ate Chipotle in my life.
she also testified
ever.
that Michelle once commented that she was a weekend mother and not made for this and that, although Michelle was supposed to pick her infant daughter up to go to the fair that fateful day, she never showed up or even called. Michelle's defense attorney argued that Michelle loved Timmy more than life itself, and that the case was wholly a character assassination.
Michelle Ludzinski is not the monster they want to paint her as to you.
They argued that all the evidence was circumstantial, without a single confession. No DNA, no fibers, no murder weapon, no physical evidence whatsoever linking his client to the case. He outlined how deeply Michelle cared for her son, and how her activities just prior to Timmy's disappearance were hardly indicative of someone who would have killed him, including clothes shopping, and even buying his graduation gown. They argued that the witnesses to the blanket, the sole piece of evidence that brought Michelle to trial, were either testifying out of spite for Michelle or biased by the extreme media exposure the case was getting. And the defense had one final ace they felt raised out about Michelle's guilt. Michelle's defense had received a call from an ex-convict named Damien Dowdle. He reported that a cellmate of his, Bernard Joseph McShane, had confessed to abducting a child from a park, then strangling him when the child began to scream.
He told me that while he was out, he was at a park with a big event going nearby, and while he was at that park, a boy had gone into the woods, and there was some sort of an argument, and the boy went into the woods. The kid began screaming and crying, and he got concerned that people were nearby and there was a search going on under for this kid. So he wanted to shut the kid up, and he strangled him.
Dowdle said he had been reading about Timothy's case and found it eerily similar to what McShane had told him.
No COD?
Backed by the fact that he reported
Nah,
the
bro.
police back in
I don't have any
1991
controller to play
when
COD
McShane
with.
first told him about
So
it.
just
The prosecution called McShane himself to the stand. McShane, not surprisingly, denied Dowdle's claim. And the prosecution didn't offer any evidence that McShane was even in New Jersey at the time of the crime.
Did you tell him that you hit and strangled the little boy?
No.
And that you killed him?
No.
The case rested and the jury deliberated. They found Michelle Ludzinski guilty of first-degree murder. The sentencing guidelines for her crime call for between 30 years in prison to life. Her attorney fought for the least amount of time, arguing, "I'm sure Timmy would not want to impose a life sentence on his mother." On January 5th, 2017, 49-year-old Michelle Ludzinski was sentenced to the minimum 30 years in prison. The judge remarked that she will be old and gray by the time she is released.
gotcha, bitch. Imagine she actually
After
didn't do
Michelle's
it.
conviction, an additional attorney joined her defense team, appalled that the case was even brought to trial with what he considered zero evidence. They appealed the conviction. Their appeals were denied until the case was finally set to be heard by the New Jersey Supreme Court. Of the 7 Supreme Court justices, one recused himself, having worked in the office of the New Jersey U.S. Attorney at the time Timmy disappeared. With the 6 remaining judges, the appeal decision was split 3-3. Normally, when there is such a split in New Jersey courts, the conviction verdict would stand, but Michelle's attorneys argued that that split violated her right to due process and requested that the Supreme Court reconsider the case. It responded by borrowing a judge from the lower court to serve as a tiebreaker. In that unprecedented move, a tiebreaker judge ruled in Michelle's favor with the final ruling stating that no murder conviction has ever been upheld on such a dearth of evidence. Two key
Kinda
factors in the
feels
majority
right.
decision
I
were
mean,
first, that they had serious doubts about the blanket testimony and its witnesses. And second,
can't really go off
if
a
the verdict
blanket
convicts
that
on
doesn't have
murder
any
charge,
DNA.
it has to be
That
proven
makes
that the
sense.
person knowingly and purposely committed the murder, an impossibility since the cause of death remained unknown. They additionally noted that the prosecution's arguments surrounding the struggles of a single mother were not only not credible, but a gender stereotype about single working mothers, noting that it is not uncommon for a 23-year-old single mother raising a child on her own to have financial and social challenges. That singularly unremarkable scenario hardly indicates a motive to murder one's child. So, on December 28, 2021, the same evening the verdict was handed down, Michelle Lodzinski's conviction was thrown out, and she was released from prison, having served
Damn, almost
5
100
years
hours,
she
Rashad.
was
That's
sentenced.
crazy.
Just grateful for all the people that helped me and stood by my side to get me home to my family and friends. I want to go home and just see my kids.
Given double jeopardy, which prohibits someone from being tried for the same matter twice, Michelle can never be tried again for Timmy's murder, even if new evidence surfaces. Reactions from those around Michelle were mixed. Her attorney stated, "This was a great day for the rule of law and the principles that matter to us, that convictions have to be based on evidence and not based on speculation or emotion." Michelle's younger brother, Michael, who had come to believe in Michelle's guilt, stated, "Justice Albin and his group believe they have righted some great wrong today, but all they did was rob justice from a little boy. Shame on them." The 3 judges who unsuccessfully dissented lamented that an unsatisfied defendant could be granted a new hearing, despite her rights having been fully protected during both her trial and appeal. They considered the decision a disservice to our jury system and grave injustice to the victim, 5-year-old Timothy Wiltsey. Jurors from the previous trial were furious, with a group of them stating, "How dare they set aside our verdict? These judges have failed in their duty to uphold the law and achieve justice for little Timmy Wiltsey." Michelle has remained private since her release, and multiple reports assume she has returned to her family, including her 2 sons in Florida, resuming her life there. We look forward to hearing what you think about this case. Its lack of forensic evidence
She's got
of
more
any
kids, it's
kind
crazy.
certainly makes you wonder, given that police collected hair, DNA, carpet fibers, thoroughly searched Michelle's home, car, everything. But the massive amount of circumstantial evidence is impossible to ignore as well. Outside of some of Michelle's family, we scarcely came across reports of anyone who didn't feel that she at least knew what happened, if not committed the murder herself. Only a very small number of people likely know for sure. What do you think? Guilty? Innocent?
Well, I think I'm gonna go to bed. That's why I think. Peace, everyone. Peace, love, and tranquility. Hope you have a good one. Probably not gonna stream tomorrow, honestly, because I'm probably gonna be getting fucked up. So yeah. Later.